for the defendants were if we could bring up both defendants, and then we will have a pretrial based on the victim at the time, Your Honor. So we have 3 victims, and both defendants were involved with each victim, Your Honor. So other than having 6 hearings and having to repeat the information for each hearing, we will have 3 hearings, Your Honor, and we will do it based on the 3 different victims.
Wait, bring them both out.
Gotcha.
Judge, you don't want 6 hearings?
Might as well. Let's just do it. Come on, live on the edge.
Yes, ma'am.
Judge, we got somebody connecting. It's not identified.
Is that
Motorola, something is connecting. Do you see it?
And Your Honor, I don't know who was connecting. What the state will say is we have possibly foreign victims, Your Honor. So they may not know the traditional aspect of Zoom, what is necessary.
petitioner has Zoom for what?
They may not know the rules of putting their name, putting their face on and things of that sort, because they may be a foreign expat at the time. Do you mind if I ask questions, Your Honor? To Motorola, Moto?
I'm listening. Go ahead.
Can you please turn on your camera?
Oh, they reconnecting the audio, Mr. McCulley.
Who's Motorola? Oh, they're not connected yet. So is that, there's only one person, Motorola, which we don't know who that is.
Please turn on your camera, Motorola Moto, or put your name in the box.
What's your name, sir? You gotta take yourself off mute. It's not Motorola Moto G Stylus 5G.
My name is Colby Elder.
Somebody understand that where they can change his name?
Yes,
Okay.
I think he said Elder.
Yes.
COLBY.
Yep.
Is this one of your alleged victims?
No, that's not one of the victims I have.
So who are you, Mr. Elder? Why are you here?
My lawyer said that I was supposed to be here.
You sure about this one? Your name's not on here. Who's your
I
lawyer?
got a letter in the mail saying that I had court, and I got this link from my lawyer,
Who's your lawyer?
Michael Barber.
I see a SC case, Judge. I don't know if that's the right one.
Do you have,
I see a motions hearing at 1 o'clock in 8D. I don't know if it's the same case, but
Yeah,
Your
that's
case-
it.
What's your case number, sir?
My indictment number,
Yeah, that's good.
22 SC 183684.
that's the extra number.
Yeah, it's assigned to McBurney.
That's 8D.
Yeah.
The motions today at 1, Judge.
Yeah, you're on the wrong, they gave you the wrong site. You're with Judge McBurney.
Okay. All right.
So,
How do I get there?
well, hold on a minute. Who told you that? Brandon Rosenblum?
No, I just got an email. I got a text message.
You got a new lawyer?
No, I don't have a new lawyer.
So is Brandon Rosenblum your lawyer?
I think so, yeah.
maybe you want to reach out and talk to Mr. Rosenblum because he's filed a motion to withdraw.
All right.
He's giving you the wrong Zoom link. You need to call his office.
Okay.
McBurney's taller, skinnier. His voice is deeper than mine.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Colby Elder. Right. There you go. All right, we have two people out here. We have Justin Davis. Who's Justin Davis?
Me.
You? And we have, is it Raquez?
Raquez.
Okay, Raquez. I'm gonna go ahead and put all six on the record and then you guys determine which one you're going over. How about that?
Sure.
Okay, so for Mr. Davis, we got 22 CP 213009, Justin Davis, 185 days without indictment. All of these are 185 days without indictment. Armed robbery, false imprisonment, kidnapping. The other one on Mr. Davis, 22 CP 213246, 185 days without indictment. Armed robbery, false imprisonment, computer theft, and computer invasion of privacy. And the last one, 22 CP 213478, aggravated assault, armed robbery, criminal attempt to commit a felony, and false imprisonment. On Thompson, it's 22 CP 213010, 185 days without indictment, armed robbery, false imprisonment, computer invasion, privacy. Then 22 CP 213246, armed robbery, false imprisonment, computer theft, computer invasion of privacy, possession of firearm during the commission of or attempt to commit certain felonies. And then we have 22 CP 213478, 185 days without indictment, possession of firearm during the commission of or attempt to commit certain felonies, ag assault, armed robbery, criminal attempt to commit a felony, false imprisonment. I don't think there's bond on any of these, so we can address it at the end if Mr. Crumley and Ms. Would y'all both like to? Ms. Mignon?
Yes, Your Honor. We filed an emergency motion for bond in all three this morning, and they were, I believe, each served on the court.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and hear it. When I got a body, I'll go ahead and hear it. All right, so go ahead. What says the state? And I guess let counsel and me both know kind of which count you're talking about.
And also, I would like to let defense counsel know that in position number 1, the victim name is Kangyu, Kangyu.
You swear? All right, let's swear the officer in.
Go ahead, raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
You lower your right hand, have a seat, get just to the microphone, state your first and last name.
I'm Detective Markins Lucian, Markins, Markens, Lucian, Lucien.
All right, go ahead, Mr. McCauley.
Yes, Officer Lucian, the defense counsel and me have agreed that we will go ahead and we will discuss the specific victims. So in discussing the cases, we are going to do it based on the victim. And then, I know, me and you previously talked, you said it was 3 different victims. Go ahead.
Yeah, I believe so. I'll just agree.
All right. So once you discuss the case, we're gonna go with victim 1, victim 2, and victim 3, and then we will go with the facts on each case regarding what the basis of the victim. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So in regards to victim, make sure I got it right. Kangyu, Kangyu. That'll be the first victim we'll go with, okay? And then I'll let you go to the next one and then we'll go from there, okay? So it'll be Kangyu, and then it will be, is it Raul Singla? RHAULSINGLA?
Yes.
Okay. And then, so that's victim 1 will be Kangyu. Victim 2 will be Raul Singla. And victim 3 will be, is it Gurpal Singh, GURPALSINGH?
Yes.
And is there 4 victims? Is it Almin Momin, ALIMMOMIN?
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna be going with the 3. All right, we're gonna start with Kang Yu. And for the record, Your Honor, that is for Justin Davis, that is 22 CP 213009. And for Raquez Thompson, that will be 22 CP 2130110.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And let me get the pull up. Officer Lucian, where are you currently employed?
With the Atlanta Police Department.
And were you employed with them on September the 3rd, 2022?
Yes, sir.
And how did you become aware of Justin Davis and Raquez Thompson when it comes to Mr. Kang Yu?
I was requested by officers after a robbery had occurred at the location given was 595 Piedmont. Later, we discovered it was the robbery had actually occurred at 144 Courier Street, not too far from there.
Okay, and please go ahead.
Mr. Yu had reported a robbery on September 3rd. He had answered an escort ad and was pretty much told to come to that location, 144 Courier Street. Upon his arrival, may I look at my notes? It's been about
Please
6
go ahead.
months.
And Your Honor, on behalf of Mr. Justin Davis, we don't have any objection to the officer Markins reviewing his notes to refresh his recollection, but we would object to him reading from them in his testimony.
You just look at it, refresh, and then look up.
Okay.
Okay. I think he may have to read a little bit more than most. I think he found out the last minute he was covering all the cases.
Okay, so Mr. Yu arrived at the location and came inside where he was met by a who he identified as a transgender female. He went inside, they closed the door behind him, and he sat down as instructed. They told him that basically just to wait. And while he was waiting, I believe he wanted to leave, but because the 4 people that were in the room who he all identified as transgender were a lot taller and bigger than him, he felt intimidated and I believe didn't want to initially leave. And if I would, let me look at it one more time just to make sure I'm saying this next part correctly. My notes one more time to say the next part correctly. So while sitting there, he said that one of the males went into a room, came back out with a firearm, did not point it, just had a firearm in their hand. He was then asked to hand over the $300 in cash that was agreed to for the escort meeting, which he did. No threats were made or anything like that. Got to read again. I'm sorry. He was then told that the girl that he was coming to see was not coming, and he would have to pay a $500 cancellation fee. At this point, Mr. Yu explained to him that he didn't have any more money, and was told to provide the money like using his cell phone. And I believe he said he couldn't. At this point, the males told him that they were going to go to the bank, in which several of them, not all of them, escorted him to a black Mercedes that he got into, and was driven to a nearby, I believe, Chase Bank at 595 Piedmont. They attempted to go into the Chase Bank, and for some reason, I believe that didn't work. So one of the males then escorted him to the Kroger that's at the location, where they tried to use an ATM, but there were too many people there. Then they went to the CVS or Walgreens. It's a pharmacy that's at that location, where upon entering, with the suspect, who was later identified as Justin Davis, upon entering the pharmacy, he immediately pulled out his cell phone, called 911, started screaming into his phone, which caused Justin Davis to flee the pharmacy and go back into the black Mercedes that they came in and flee the area. At that point, Mr. Yu called 911. I mean, Mr. Yu finished his 911 call.
And at this time, can you explain, like, okay, you talking about escort services, we know what's going on. Let's go back to when he first came into the room. How many people was in the room at that time?
Let me just check my notes real quick and just make sure. I believe he said it. Sorry. Mr. Yu had identified 4 people, 3 that he identified as transgender, and 1 which was just a black male in a black hoodie.
And what were the people wearing in the room? Was they able to see their face? Were they covered in any kind of way?
Yes, he was able to see their faces. He described the one as wearing a let me look at the notes again, I'm sorry. He described the one as wearing a red dress with a blonde wig, another one wearing a yellow dress with a similar blonde wig, one that was dressed as a tomboy with a white tank top and I believe gray sweatpants or gray pants. And the last person was just a black male with a black hoodie.
So which out of the people that were there, who all got into the Mercedes Benz?
I'm gonna check my notes. Mr. Yu stated it was the black male with the black hoodie, the tomboy transgender male with the white tank top and gray pants, and just to make sure, and the transgender male that was wearing a yellow dress.
So 3 different people got into the vehicle with Mr. Uden, right?
Yes.
All right. And once they arrive at the bank first, I believe, did you review any video footage?
Not able to get any video footage from the Chase Bank.
Okay. And when they arrived at the CVS or the store, the pharmacy store, were you able to look at any footage from there?
Yes.
Okay. And what did you see in that footage?
In that footage, I saw the male that was dressed as a tomboy with a white tank top and gray pants, who was later identified as Justin Davis, walking with the victim, Kang Yu, into the CVS or the pharmacy. I can't remember if it's CVS or Walgreens or what.
And in that video, are you able to see facial features? Are you able to see body stature?
Yes.
Is the video in color?
Yes.
With this video, did you record this on your body cam?
I did not record it on my body cam, but I do have a copy of the video itself.
And did you speak at anyone at the pharmacy?
Not speak to anyone at the pharmacy.
I'm sorry, counsel. He said he did not.
I did not speak to anyone at the pharmacy.
Thank you.
So can you tell me what you see in this video? Is anything brandish? Can you, as you are watching this video, what do you see?
See the victim walking along with the suspect, and as the victim and suspect enter the pharmacy, the victim pulls out his cell phone, and at that point it appears that the suspect looks back at him and then takes off running out of the pharmacy. When you switch to the exterior cameras, the suspect is seen continuing to run through the parking lot and appears to be chased by what might be a security guard, and the victim pointing in his direction, in the suspect's direction.
And speaking with the victim, were you one of the first officers on the scene, or was you a responding officer?
No, I was, the Zone 5 officers responded, and then I responded to the scene after.
And did you speak with Mr. Yu?
I did.
And can you please tell us about that conversation?
I spoke to Mr. Yu, who explained that he was trying to meet an escort on an escort site. He did his best to show us the site and show us a picture of the female that he was trying to meet, which I believe went by the name of Jasmine. He was then able to provide me with the different phone numbers that he was provided during the conversation with Jasmine and his interaction with the males inside the apartment that he was first trapped in.
And was you able to review that site once he provided it to you?
Review the site.
And what was on the site? What did you see?
Can I look at my notes?
Sure.
On that site, the site that he gave was Adult Friend Finder, and the profile that he said was Jasmine. When you click on that profile, it took you to a similar site called Adult Search, which also had the profile name Jasmine, and he was able to say, hey, that was the person that he was trying to meet with.
Okay. And what was the cost that was quoted to him?
$300. Yes, $300.
You said when he first got into the apartment that he looked a little nervous. Did he try to leave immediately?
Mr. Yu said that at all times there was at least one person standing between him and the door. So to avoid escalating anything, at no point did he try to leave because he was afraid if he did not comply with anything asked of him, that it would escalate the situation and he would get hurt.
You said somebody had a gun. Was it ever pointed in his direction?
The victim stated it was never pointed in his direction, nor were threats made, but it was present when they were dealing with him.
How many guns did he see?
I believe he saw just one.
Was a person in front of the door holding a gun?
I don't believe the victim specifically said who was at the door. He just simply said that at all times there was at least one of them blocking the doorway. So I don't know if the person who had the gun had ever decided to block the doorway as well.
And did he describe the person who was holding the gun?
He did. I'm just going to refer to my notes. It's going to be the transgender male that was wearing the red dress.
And were you able to identify that person?
Let me look at my notes. Mr. Yu identified Andre Davis, but he indicated that that was the person who was either in the red or yellow dress.
Did anybody else handle the gun?
Mr. Yu never mentioned anyone else handling the gun during this incident. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me just check real quick, but I believe Mr. Yu stated that when they got into the vehicle, the gun was handed to the male in the black hoodie.
And were you able to identify the male in the black hoodie?
No.
You were able to identify Justin Davis as the person who was walking with Mr. Yu into the pharmacy. Is that correct?
Objection, Your Honor, leading.
Rephrase.
Who walked into the pharmacy with Mr. Yu?
It was Justin Davis.
Was Justin Davis armed when he walked into the CVS?
No.
The address that Mr. Yu went to, what was that address?
144 Courier Street.
And what county is that in?
That's in Fulton County.
And were you post certified during this investigation?
I was.
And did Mr. Yu identify Justin Davis at any time during this investigation?
He did.
And how did he do that?
A photo lineup was presented to Mr. Yu where he was able to identify Justin Davis. He picked out Justin Davis out of 6 people.
Did you speak with Justin Davis during this investigation?
I did.
And did you discuss this specific case regarding Kang Yu with Justin Davis?
I did.
And what did you learn from your discussion with Justin Davis?
During that conversation, Mr. Davis did admit that he was the person with Mr. Yu in the video.
Did he admit to anything else?
It was a long interview. I can't remember at this moment.
And do you see the person that was in the video from the pharmacy in the courtroom now?
Let's
Yes.
take your face mask off, please.
Justin Davis is sitting at the far side of the defense table. On the computer, it's SCA1A, short for prosecutor. No, I'm sorry, I'm sitting there. It's SCA1A and defendant shortened.
May the court recognize he has positively identified Justin Davis.
Noted.
No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
All right, Cross? Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Crumby and I have agreed that I would go first on cross-examination.
Okay.
Thank you. Officer Markins,
Yes.
can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you.
How long have you been in law enforcement with Fulton County?
I work for Atlanta Police Department and it's been for about 8 years.
Okay. And in your role over the last 8 years, what has been your title? Is it investigator, detective, lieutenant? What's been your role?
I was an officer and then I became a detective a couple of years ago.
And your involvement in this case is in the role of detective?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what is the date of this alleged incident?
It happened September 3rd, 2022.
And what time of day were you involved? What are you talking about? What time of day are we talking about?
I believe I was probably dispatched in the late afternoon, early evening, around that time.
And when we say late afternoon, are we talking about 1 p.m., 2 p.m.?
No, like 7 p.m.
Okay. And approximately what time was this alleged incident?
Let me check my notes. Oops, I'm sorry. I believe it happened around 4:10 p.m. that day.
So it was fair to say it would be daylight outside?
Yes.
And I want to address you in your current official title. It would be Detective Markins, correct?
Detective Lucian, APD uses investigator, but they are interchangeable. Either investigator or detective is fine.
Now, what time did the alleged victim, Mr. Yu, express to you that he arrived at the location?
I don't have that right in front of me. If you want me to, I can check the officer's original report.
Okay, were you the responding officer?
No, I was a responding detective. So the officers get there first and get the initial information. And based on that, they call a detective if needed.
Okay, and who was the responding officer?
Don't have that information with me right now. I'm not going to speculate. I don't have it right now. If you want me to, I can try to check and find it.
Okay, no problem. I can move on. Now, once you arrived, do you recall who called you to the scene?
The responding officer.
Okay, and that's the name you're unable to recall at this point.
Yes.
And did you put any of that in, you don't have any of that in your report that you completed?
No, I just put officers.
Okay. Were there more than one officers when you arrived?
Yes.
Okay, and how many?
If I'm remembering right, at minimum, there were 2.
Were these officers from the Atlanta Police Department?
Yes, they were.
And once you arrived, did you arrive at the pharmacy or at an apartment? Where did you arrive?
In front of the pharmacy.
Okay, and is it the CVS pharmacy you said?
Said CVS, but I'm actually not sure if it's a CVS or a Walgreens. But I know it's a pharmacy that's at that location.
Okay, and is that the 144 Courier Street?
No, it's 595 Piedmont. 595 Piedmont Avenue.
Okay, so 595 Piedmont Avenue is where you responded to.
Yes.
Now, when you responded to 595 Piedmont Avenue, did you ever go back to the location where Mr. Yu advised you he showed up to meet an escort?
I did.
You did?
Yes.
Okay. And approximately what time did you go there?
The approximate time, it would have been after I had finished interviewing the victim.
Okay. And about how long did it take you to interview Mr. Yu?
Between speaking to the officers, I would guess maybe an hour and a half.
So is it fair to say that you would have arrived at the 144 Courier Street at around maybe 7 p.m.?
Maybe later than that.
Was it dark or light outside by then?
It was dark by then.
And as it pertains to the 144 Courier Street, who owns that property based on your investigation?
Skyline Apartments.
It's an apartment complex?
It is an apartment complex.
Okay. And do you recall what apartment number this alleged incident occurred in?
Look at my notes.
Yes, sir.
It occurred in apartment 1051, which I was able to find out later.
Okay, so we're talking about 144 Courier Street, apartment 1051.
Yes, the actual address of the apartment complex, I believe it has 2. It's 396 Piedmont Avenue. 144 Courier Street is, I guess, it has multiple entrances. So 144 Courier Street would be an area where you can also enter that Skyline Apartments.
Okay, so if we're talking about where you physically went, did your investigations result in you actually getting an address that the Postal Service uses to deliver mail?
Yes.
And what address would that be?
That would be 396 Piedmont Avenue Northeast in Atlanta, Georgia. Apartment 1051.
And did you have a zip code?
30308.
So after speaking with the alleged victim in this case, you arrived at this 396 Piedmont Avenue Northeast, apartment 1051 to further your investigation?
I did.
I'm sorry?
I did. Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you. And I apologize because we're virtual. It's a little bit, sometimes I get an echo and I'm unable to hear you clearly. So I just don't want to misstate your testimony in any form. Now, as it pertains to your conversation with the alleged victim, Mr. Yu, when you returned back to the 396 Piedmont Avenue, who all was there when you were present?
I cannot remember at this time.
Okay. Was it one person, two persons, no one?
I couldn't tell you. I might have went back there myself. I might have went back there with another investigator. I just can't remember right now.
Okay. Now, did you see any of the alleged suspects at that location?
No, I didn't.
Did your investigation reveal who rents the apartment or who the lease agreement with the apartment complex is with at the apartment 1051?
Yes, it did.
And who did your investigation reveal releases that apartment?
Raquise Thompson.
And is that co-defendant Mr. Raquez?
Yes. I apologize if I mispronounced his name.
No problem. You have it spelled as Raques?
No. If I would look at my notes, I can tell you how I have it spelled. It is Raqueze, and Thompson is common spelling Thompson.
Okay. Now, as it pertains to that apartment complex, Mr. Justin Davis, my client, does not lease that apartment, correct?
To my knowledge, he does not.
And you also don't have any evidence, or your investigation did not reveal that he resides at that location either, correct?
That I couldn't tell you. He may have had some items there, but I couldn't tell you for sure, based on my investigation, if he resides at that location or not.
Now, your testimony on direct examination was that Mr. Yu was taken by 3 individuals into a black Mercedes. Am I accurately reflecting or repeating your testimony? I'm sorry, sir.
Yes, you are.
Okay. So there was one individual that was not present of the, so how many people total were in the car, 4 or 3?
It's 4 people, 3 suspects, 1 victim.
Okay. Now, as it pertains to Mr. Justin Davis, my client, there's no evidence that he had possession of a gun, correct?
That's correct.
And he never pointed a weapon at the alleged victim, Mr. Yu.
That is correct.
And he also never threatened Mr. Yu.
That is correct.
And when he entered the pharmacy that you saw depicted on, I believe this is video footage provided to you from the pharmacy, is that accurate? He never made any threats on video either that you saw, correct?
That I saw.
And as far as the information that you've seen, Mr. Yu was free to go as it pertains to his connection with Mr. Justin Davis.
When I spoke to Mr. Yu, he did not feel as if he was free to go until he made that last ditch attempt by calling 911 and screaming very loudly so that Mr. Davis could flee.
Okay, and based on that information, that's what Mr. Yu felt, correct?
That is correct.
All right, and that doesn't mean that Mr. Davis did anything to cause him to feel threatened, correct?
I could see it that way.
And that's Mr. Justin Davis, because I think we have 2 Davises, and I just want to be clear that I'm speaking of Mr. Justin Davis.
That is correct, Mr. Justin Davis.
You also testified that Mr. Justin Davis was not the individual that may have been standing close to a door. Is that accurate?
Mr. Yu stated to me that someone was always standing between him and the door. He doesn't make it particularly like this person was standing at this time and that person was standing at this time. The way it was portrayed to me is as if they rotated in standing in front of the door, but someone was always in front of the door.
Now, your testimony on direct examination that there was a black male in a hoodie that was blocking the door, correct?
I don't believe so.
Okay, I believe you also testified that the individual that you believe that may have had the weapon was an individual wearing a red dress.
Yes, Mr. Wu stated that the individual who went and got the weapon and came back out with it was wearing a red dress.
Okay, and Mr. Justin Davis was never alleged to have been wearing a red dress, correct?
That is correct.
Also, the person who the weapon was handed to in the vehicle, based on your testimony, was the male who was wearing a black hoodie, correct?
That is correct.
And that black male you testified you're unable to identify as we sit here today.
Yes, I cannot identify him as we sit here today.
Now, other than Mr. Yu's running away on video at the pharmacy, you don't know if Mr. Yu said anything threatening to Mr. Justin Davis to cause him to run from the pharmacy, right?
Mr. Yu never stated that he said anything threatening to Mr. Davis.
Okay, and you don't have anything that would corroborate that it wasn't Mr. Yu that was the aggressor at the pharmacy when you saw Mr. Davis running? Okay, let me rephrase my question. I don't want to confuse you. You saw footage of a pharmacy video or recording that showed Mr. Justin Davis running away from the alleged victim, Mr. Yu.
Yes.
Okay, and you don't know what caused, or let me rephrase that. Other than what Mr. Yu told you, you don't have any corroborating evidence to prove that Mr. Justin Davis was not in fear of Mr. Yu, correct?
I do not.
Okay, and Mr. Justin Davis did not have any weapons that would cause you, when you watch that video footage, to believe that he was a threat to Mr. Yu, correct?
I did not see any weapons on Mr. Davis.
Now, you've been in law enforcement 8 years?
Yes.
And isn't it true, investigator or detective, that mere presence at the scene does not make someone liable for whatever occurs there?
No.
Okay. I have no further questions at this point of time, Your Honor, as it
All right.
pertains to the case.
Anything else from the state before, let's see. Guess
Nothing else
Mr.
for the state, Your Honor, and also just for clarity in regards to the record, in regards to this first case that we're doing right now, this is for 22 CP 213009. The victim is Kang Yu that we just both discussed with the detective. And the defendant is Justin Davis, as we already stated. For this case right here, Raquez Thompson is not a co-defendant. So just want to make that clear.
Okay. All right, you want to move on to the next one, or you want me to go ahead and, you want to argue on this one?
I'll go ahead and go on through, Your Honor.
Right, which one are you going to?
I'm going to 22 CP 213010, and the victim is Raul Singla, Singla. And just for my the defense counsel is only one defendant in regards to the case right here, is Raquez Thompson.
Okay,
I just want to give the officer a moment to go ahead and be ready to go ahead and go to the next victim.
Let's know when you're ready.
Raul Singla.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. And give me a moment.
All right, 22 CP 213010, 185 days on indictment. Mr. Thompson, it's armed robbery, false imprisonment, and computer invasion of privacy.
Sorry, Your Honor, give me 1 second. Okay, and Officer Lucian,
Yes.
were you employed with the APD on August the 12th, 2022?
Yes.
And did you learn of a victim, Raul Singla?
Yes.
And did you learn of a defendant, Raquez Thompson?
Yes.
And can you please tell me about and discuss the investigation that involved Raquez Thompson?
Mr. Singler stated that he had met someone on a dating website and had agreed to meet with them at 396 Piedmont Avenue. He went to the location, and when he arrived, he was let in and told to sit down. Let me review the notes. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He was in contact with the person that he was speaking to via the dating website and was given instructions of how to get inside. And once he got inside, he was met by 5 transgender females who immediately took his cell phone once he got inside.
And what happened next?
Let me just look at. Afterward, he was told to sit down. One of the transgender females had and just to make sure I know that I'm using the words transgender females and transgender males, this is how the victim referred to them to me.
Okay.
So one of them had what he described as a taser gun in his hand and asked for the pass.
Hold on 1 second. Just for clarity for the record, are you using transgender male and transgender female? Are you using that interchangeably?
I'm not trying to use it interchangeably. I believe what Mr. Singular meant were that they were transgender males. If I'm getting that correctly, I'm not sure. Somebody please correct me.
Male to female.
Okay.
Male to female is transgender male.
Okay. Or in regards to our testimony, please just use it one way. Let's not use it interchangeably. Okay. So if it's transgender male, or transgender female, I don't know which one they told you, but let's not use them interchangeably. Okay, please.
Okay. So I believe if it's male to female, it's transgender female. Is that correct, Your Honor?
Okay. If you don't have to ask for clarification, use one.
Okay, I'm just gonna say transgender person.
There you go.
There you go. Okay, I just didn't want to use the interchangeable. All
Okay,
right.
I apologize for anything.
Great.
So one of the transgender people that were there had what was described as a taser gun and threatened to hurt Mrs. Singular with it if he did not provide his password. Mrs. Singular did provide his password. His wallet was
what?
His cell phone. And his they used his cell phone. They were able to access apps on his cell phone to be able to transfer approximately $3,000 from one of his bank accounts. I believe Mr. Singular later told me that an additional, I'm just gonna leave that out. But they were able to transfer $3,000 out of one of his bank accounts via Zelle. He did say that one of the suspects did take one of his bank cards and did withdraw $500 in cash from an ATM as well. Ms. Singular was held at that location for what? Let me look at my notes. Well, Ms. Singular was held at a location for some time. Eventually, the suspects returned his cell phone to him as well as his bank cards, and he was allowed to leave. While sitting there, he stated that Ms. Singular stated that while he was there, at no point did he ever feel comfortable to just attempt to leave.
And did they let him leave eventually?
They let him leave. They returned his items to him and told him that he was pretty much free to go.
Okay. And once he left, what did he do next?
He immediately called 911.
Okay. Was he still at the apartment when he called 911?
He was in the general area.
Okay. And did officers respond?
They did.
And did you discuss the case with the responding officers?
This happened, I believe this incident happened overnight and I was not working at the moment.
Okay. Did you review the reports regarding the victim, Raul Singular?
I did.
Okay. And what did you learn?
I learned that basically he came to the location to meet someone from a dating website and that he was robbed. Once he was able to break free, he went out to his car, called 911 and waited for police to arrive. When the officers arrived, he described to the best of his ability what door he came from. And then officers went to the door they believed it was and knocked on it and got no answer.
And let's talk about the actual when he was inside of the apartment.
Mhm.
Okay. Can you go through and was he able to identify all the people that were inside the apartment?
He was not able to identify all the people that were in the apartment, but he was able to identify some of them.
Okay. Can you please tell me which people he was able to identify?
Mr. Singular was able to identify Andre Davis, Marcel Harris, and Raquise Thompson. Specifically, Mr. Singular indicated that Mr. Thompson was the person who had his phone and had used his phone.
And
Your Honor, I apologize. My internet connection was unstable and I missed that whole line of questioning.
That's okay. What do you need him to repeat?
Your Honor, whatever he just testified to.
Okay, repeat that last question, Mr. McCauley.
yes, were you able to identify anybody in the apartment during the time of this incident?
Mr. Singular was able to identify Andre Davis, Marcel Harris, and Raquise Thompson. Specifically, Mr. Singular indicated that Mr. Thompson was the person who had and used Mr. Singular's phone.
And was he able to, and how was he able to identify Mr. Thompson?
I showed Mr. Singular a photo lineup with 6 people, and he was able to pick out Mr. Thompson of the 6.
And when he was inside the apartment, did anybody have a mask?
No.
Did anybody have their face covered in any kind of way?
Ms. Singular did not state that to me at all. That anyone had their face covered in any way.
Was he able to describe the clothing that anybody was wearing?
To my knowledge, he did not specifically identify clothing.
And did you review his any cell phone financial transactions during this incident?
Mr. Silva did come in for an interview later and did show me a Zelle transactions. At the moment, I can't remember if it was several or just one Zelle transaction that accounted for $3,000. He also showed me some other transactions that appear to have come from a business account that he attributes to the incident at 396 Piedmont.
Do you know the amount of what occurred with the business account?
If you would allow me to check my notes real quick, I think I have it in here. Nope. I don't believe I have it in these notes.
Okay. Was the business account associated with his cell phone at the time of the incident?
Mr. Singler did have access to that business account using his cell phone.
And how was APD able to identify Raquez Thompson for the lineup?
I'm sorry, you can go ahead and finish.
Objection, Your Honor, leading.
Rephrase.
Okay. Did APD learn of the identity of any of the victims, of any of the defendants?
Yes.
And please discuss how APD was able to determine the defendants.
Based on what Mr. Singular said, and along with all the other similar incidents that happened at that location or close to that location, we were able to gather a number of phone numbers that we were able to research and find out their connection to several of the suspects. Once we knew which apartment it was, we were then able to get go to the leasing manager who was able to provide us the lessee of the apartment, the name of the lessee of the apartment.
And was you able to determine in this investigation the Zelle payments, the recipient of where the money was sent?
I was able to determine the phone number. Using the phone number, I was able to determine some of the recipients.
And can you tell me, was Raquez Thompson a recipient?
In terms of this particular case, I cannot tell you if Raquez Thompson was the specific recipient of this Zelle payment. I believe I do have that information, but not with me right now.
And did Mr. Singler identify Mr. Thompson?
Yes, he did.
Did Mr. Singler identify Mr. Thompson as a person with a cell phone?
Yes, he did.
You wrote the criminal warrant for false imprisonment. Can you please discuss that a little more?
Mr. Singular, upon being met with the 5 transgender people and being threatened with what he described as a taser gun, did not feel comfortable trying to leave the area. They had also taken his cell phone from him, as well as a bank card from him. So he simply didn't feel like he could leave of his own free will. And when I spoke to him during the interview, I asked him, and he stated that he didn't feel that he could leave of his own free will.
And when he gave his cell phone, who did he give it to?
The cell phone was taken from him, he didn't give it to anyone. He did not specifically say which person took his cell phone.
But he did identify a person with his cell phone.
He did identify Rockwise Thompson as a person who was holding his cell phone and the person who was using his cell phone.
And were you post-certified during the time of this investigation?
Yes, I was.
And do you see the person in the courtroom who the victim, Raul Singla, identified as having his cell phone?
Yes, I do.
Can you please describe an article of clothing that he is wearing?
He is wearing a blue shirt with a white thermal underneath, black mask underneath his chin, short hair. He's a brown skinned black male.
May the court recognize he has positively identified Raquez Thompson.
Noted.
Objection, Your Honor. It appears that both of these defendants wore matching uniforms and both have face masks underneath their chins.
Can you be specific where they're sitting to you?
Raquez Thompson is sitting right next to me in the middle defense table. He's the one that I said had the short hair.
Noted. He described the one in the table behind the podium.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mm-hmm.
No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
All right, Cross?
Yes, Your Honor. Detective Markin.
Yeah.
Mr. Singla, he was basically paying for escort services. Is that correct?
Mr. Singla never admitted to trying to pay for escort services. Matter of fact, during our interview, he vehemently denied it.
Can you tell us which individual took Mr. Singla's phone?
Mr. Singla never stated exactly which person took his phone, but he only indicated that Mr. Rockwise Thompson was a person who had his phone and was using it.
Okay. So he didn't say that Mr. Thompson actually took his phone.
He didn't point to any particular person. He didn't say when he explained it to me, he didn't say this particular person wearing this took my cell phone. But when we reviewed the photo lineup, he did say that, hey, this is the person who had my phone and was using it. I don't know if Mr. Thompson was the one who initially grabbed the phone from Mr. Singla or not.
And Mr. Singla didn't say that Mr. Thompson is the one who initially took his phone. Is that correct?
He didn't say that he wasn't either.
Let's talk about this taser for just a moment. Did Mr. Singla describe the taser?
Describe it as a taser gun.
Okay. Did he give any further description?
No.
Color?
Not that I can remember at this moment.
Make, model?
I don't think no, he did not.
Did Mr. Thompson, according to your testimony, Mr. Thompson never threatened to hurt Mr. Singla? Is that correct?
According to what Mr. Singla said, he was threatened with a taser gun if he didn't give up his password.
Thank you, Detective. My question was, Mr. Singla never said that Mr. Thompson threatened to hurt him. Is that correct?
He never said it. He never particularized who threatened to hurt him.
Detective, Mr. Singla never said that Mr. Thompson had the taser gun. Is that correct?
Nope, he never said that.
As it pertains to his bank card and his $500 cash taken from the ATM machine, did you get any footage from the machine?
I did not.
So you don't know who went to the ATM and used the bank card, is that correct?
I was not able to get footage from that machine.
You would agree that having that footage would be important, identifying who actually used.
Objection,
Mr.
calls for
Singleton.
speculation, Your Honor. He said he didn't get the footage, Your Honor. He already answered the question.
All right, rephrase.
Detective, in
Yes.
investigating this matter, would you agree that it would be important to know who used Mr. Singleton's bank card at the ATM?
It would be if I could get the video.
Now, you said that Mr. Singleton didn't feel comfortable to leave, is that correct?
That's what he stated to me.
Did anybody physically block the door so he couldn't leave?
Mr. Singler did not tell me if anybody blocked the door or not.
Further, Mr. Singleton didn't tell you if anybody stood between him and the door, is that correct?
He did not tell me that.
Mr. Singleton didn't tell you that the person with the taser gun was standing between him and the door, is that correct?
Yeah, he did not tell me that either.
Mr. Singleton didn't tell you that somebody pointed a taser gun at him, did he?
He did not specifically say that somebody pointed one at him, just that he was threatened with one.
And you would agree that you can threaten somebody without pointing an actual gun at them, is that correct?
It's possible.
And when the officers went back to the location where Mr. Singleton said this occurred, no one answered the door, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, you mentioned something about a photo lineup. Do you recall that testimony?
I do.
And I believe you said that you were already familiar with this location where this alleged crime occurred. Is that correct?
I became familiar with the location as more of these incidents started happening.
Who were the individuals in your photo lineup?
How many photo? Can you rephrase it? Like, do you want the specific people in each photo lineup, or the
Let's start with this. How many people were in your photo lineup?
6 people per photo lineup?
How many photo lineups did you show Mr. Singleton?
Let me look at my notes. Six.
So you showed Mr. Singleton 6 different photo lineups. Is that correct?
I did. That is correct. I did.
On each of those, on those photo lineups, how many times did Mr. Thompson's photo appear?
Just once.
You didn't recover any video footage from outside the apartment, did you?
I did not.
You didn't recover any video footage from inside the apartment, did you?
There was no video footage inside the apartment.
Now, you said that Mr. Thompson is the one who actually used Mr. Singleton's phone. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did anybody besides Mr. Thompson use Mr. Singleton's phone?
Mr. Singler only mentioned Mr. Thompson using his phone.
So you agree that it is possible that somebody other than Mr. Thompson used Mr. Singleton's phone?
Objection, calls for speculation.
Rephrase.
I'll move on, Your Honor.
Okay.
When Mr. Thompson allegedly used Mr. Singleton's phone, you don't know whether or not he was scrolling through Mr. Singleton's pictures, do you?
I don't know.
Whether he was scrolling through his text messages,
I don't know.
checking his email?
I don't know. He could have been doing anything in his phone. He didn't have the right to be in it.
But Mr. Singleton didn't say that Mr. Thompson is the one that used Zelle. Is that correct?
Say it again.
Mr. Singler did not say that Mr. Thompson is actually the individual who Zelled the money from his account to somewhere else. Is that correct?
Yeah, Mr. Singular did not say who particularly sent anything. He just knows that a Zelle transfer was made.
Mr. Singler also didn't say that Mr. Thompson is the one who took his bank card. Is that correct?
Let me look at my notes real quick, just to be sure. Mr. Singular only stated that one of the suspects took his bank card. He didn't say particularly which one.
And as you sit here today, you cannot say that Mr. Thompson was the one who received the Zelle payment. Is that correct?
As of now, I can't say anything. I don't have the particular notes in front of me to know who received those particular Zelle payments.
Did Mr. Singler ever return to the apartment after the police left?
No.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Anything else from the state?
Nothing else for the state in regards to this case, Your Honor.
All right. Do you want to go to the next one or?
Ready for the next one. And the next one, Your Honor, this are the co-defendants, Your Honor. This will be positions 4 and 5. Let me just make sure.
What about 3?
I'm sorry. This will be positions 3 and 4.
Okay.
They're both numbered the same way, 22 CP 21 3246.
All right, that's got Fulton imprisonment, computer theft, armed robbery, computer invasion of privacy, possession of firearm during the, of a knife or a firearm during the commission of a felony, and that's Mr. Thompson. And 4 is 22 CP 213246, armed robbery, Fulton imprisonment, computer theft, and computer invasion of privacy. Yes. Go ahead.
And yes, officer, this is Gopal Singh. When you're ready, just let me know.
All right. Let's go for it.
All right, let's go. And as I say that, I wasn't ready. Give me one moment. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm sorry, Your Honor. And Detective Lucian,
Yes.
were you employed with APD on September the 14th, 2022?
Yes, I was.
Were you investigating Justin Davis and Raquez Thompson during that time?
Yes.
And did you learn of a victim by the name of Gopal Singh, Gurpal, last name Singh?
Yes.
And please tell me about your investigation regarding victim Gopal Singh.
On September 18th of 2022, I actually received a phone call from Gurpal Singh stating that he had been robbed back on September 13th at 396 Piedmont Avenue. Mr. Singh stated that, just to kind of point out why there's a discrepancy in time, Mr. Singh stated that after the robbery, he had a plane to catch early that morning, and he was so scared that he simply got out of the area and immediately got on the plane and left. It's not until he felt safe and comfortable back where he lived, which was in California, and that he felt comfortable enough to contact the police and tell them what happened. To continue, Mr. Singh stated to me that he had matched with a female on Tinder, and he had chatted up the female, and eventually while he was out that night, he had set up to meet that female around 11 p.m. on the 13th. Let me just look at my notes to make sure. Mr. Singh was provided the address 144 Courier Street, which is just another entrance to 396 Piedmont Avenue, and given instructions as to what door to come into. When he arrived, the door was left open a little bit. I guess so he can know what door to go to. Mr. Singh, let me just look at my notes. Mr. Singh stated upon entering, he was met by 5 black males dressed as females. And when he immediately tried to back up and leave, he was grabbed and tossed onto the couch. Mr. Singh said one of the males was armed with a gun and another was armed with a knife. The males immediately took his wallet, took the $120 that he had in cash and his cell phone. Mr. Singh stated that they got the password to his phone, and let me just look at my notes again. Mr. Singh said they got the password to his phone and then started using his face as a way to access the different applications on his phone. And one transaction that was done using one of the applications on his phone was a $2,000 Zelle transaction from his Chase account. Mr. Singh stated later, after all, let me just look at my notes real quick. I'm sorry, I keep stopping like this.
You're okay. A lot of cases. You're doing good. Keep on.
Okay, Mr. Singh stated that they appeared to have collected his information. They were later able to use some of his information to book Airbnbs and rentals using some of his information and along with linking his phone to their phone or a phone number using an Apple ID. I'm not 100% sure how that works, but basically they had access to Mr. Singh's applications and passwords in his phone, using the Apple ID. Mr. Singh stated that he had been held there until approximately about 4 a.m. He had been held there until about approximately 4 a.m. But before letting him go, one of them had taken a video or set up to take a video of themselves kissing Mr. Singh and then threatened to send this video to his friends and family if he said anything. After that incident was done, he said that the suspects were nice to him, returned all his stuff, and allowed him to leave.
And was he able to identify the people in the apartment?
He was able to identify some of the people in the apartment.
And who was he able to identify?
He was able to identify Justin Davis and Raquise Thompson.
And how did he do that identification?
I presented a photo lineup of I presented photo lineups, and in those photo lineups, he was able to pick out Justin Davis and Raquise Thompson. He also specifically indicated that Mr. Thompson was the one who was armed during this incident.
And what was he armed with?
Mr. Singh stated that he was armed with a black gun and later a knife.
Did he describe the knife?
He did not give a description of a knife. He just said it was just like a knife. He didn't specify.
And was this knife ever pointed at Mr. Singh?
Mr. Singh, when I spoke to him, never mentioned that knife being pointed.
How far was the knife or gun between him and the defendant?
Based on the size of the living room, I guess at no point were they ever more than 10 feet away from each other, and that's being generous.
And during the time he was there, what time did he originally get to the apartment?
He said that he got to the apartment sometime after 11 p.m.
And during the time he was there, did he describe who had his cell phone at the time?
Let me check my notes to see if I have that. Mr. Singh, from what I can see, I don't remember him specifically mentioning any particular person who had a cell phone at any given time.
Did you review any transactions from Mr. Singh's cell phone?
I did.
And was you able to determine any of the transactions that happened during this incident?
I was.
And what did you learn about those transactions that happened at the time?
Those transactions were sent to different phone numbers and the Apple IDs. Mr. Singh was able to provide a number of them. I don't know if I linked every single phone number to every single person. Not every phone number was a number provided by a cell phone company. Some are VoIP numbers, voice over internet numbers, but one particular one was an email and phone number used in the booking of an Airbnb. That belonged to Tarico Jackson, and he provided a phone number attached to that as well. And I don't remember if the Apple ID came back to any particular phone, any particular person, but due to the Apple ID and this phone number being connected to his phone, he was able to send several videos. And if I got them here somewhere, he was able to send a video that was taken from one of the suspects' phones that show, I believe, 3 of the 5 suspects in the room together.
And who was in that picture?
Let me review. Let's see. No. In one of the videos sent, Justin Davis can be seen in that video. Tarico Jackson can be seen in that same video. Justin Davis can be seen in a different video. And I believe Marcel Harris was also seen in one of the videos. Based on me seeing the suspects and seeing what they look like and comparing them to the people in the video.
And in these videos, are they sent from Mr. Singh's phone? Are they sent to his phone? How were the videos? Who sent the video out?
So I'm not 100% sure how it works, but the way it was kind of explained to me by Mr. Singh and another person was that because the phones are linked, any information that is on one phone and I guess available to the cloud is also automatically uploaded to the other phone. So if they took a video or a photo on their phone and it's in the cloud, Mr. Singh's phone automatically also has that same video.
And in this video, was it of the actual apartment that these acts happening at?
I could not tell from the first video, but one of the videos, it does appear to be the same living room.
Were they timestamped?
I'm not sure. I don't know how to actually pull that information from the, I don't know how to pull the information from the video itself. These videos were compiled and sent to me by Mr. Singh.
And was Mr. Singh able to identify the parties or the people in the video?
He was able to identify one of them later in the photo lineup, but in one of the videos, he did say at least 3 of the people there were the same people that were there when his incident occurred.
Okay. And just before I have this correctly, you said so Mr. Thompson, did he identify Mr. Thompson as a person with the knife or the gun?
Yes, he stated that Mr. Thompson was a person who was armed with a gun and then later armed with a knife.
And was he free to leave?
No, Mr. Singh felt at no point he was free to leave until the suspects returned all his items, were nice to him, and pretty much told him to leave.
He was threatened after they kissed him or any other kind of position. Was these pictures ever released?
To my knowledge, no.
And for this incident, did Mr. Singh identify Justin Davis as a person in this incident?
Yes, he did.
And how did he do that?
I showed him a photo lineup with Justin Davis's photo in it, and he was able to pick Mr. Davis out of the 6-person photo lineup.
And did he identify Raquez Thompson as a person during this incident?
Yes, he did.
And how did he do that?
Same way, I presented him a 6-person photo lineup, and he was able to pick Mr. Thompson out of the 6-person photo lineup.
Do you know the total amount that was transferred or withdrawn from his account, bank accounts, personal accounts?
I do not know the total amount, but I know that at least $2,000 was transferred from his account. This does not account for any bookings or anything that was made for any Airbnb rentals after the incident occurred.
And through your investigation, was you able to link any of the bookings or transfers, withdrawals, specifically to any individuals?
Able to link one of the Airbnb bookings to a Tarico Jackson. I was or do not have it at the moment any links to anybody else.
And do you see Justin Davis in the courtroom today?
I do.
Give some specificity of what he's wearing and where he's sitting.
Okay. Mr. Justin Davis is wearing a blue shirt with a gray sweatshirt underneath. He has long braids tied into a bun. He is a lighter skinned black male sitting at the far end defense table marked SCA1A and then short for defendant.
Thank you.
May the court recognize he has positively identified the defendant?
Noted.
Can you also identify or see if you identify Raquez Thompson in the courtroom?
Mr. Raquez Thompson is a brown-skinned black male wearing a blue shirt, a white thermal underneath, short hair. He is sitting at the middle defense table, which is marked SCA1A podium.
And may the court recognize he has positively identified Raquez Thompson.
Noted.
And were you post certified during this investigation?
Yes, I was.
And what address was associated with this incident?
396 Piedmont Avenue, apartment 1051 in Fulton County, Georgia.
No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
All right, Cross.
Thank you, Your Honor. By agreement, I'll go first. Mark Chivignon for Mr. Justin Davis. All right, Detective, as it pertains to Mr. Singh, I believe your testimony on direct examination that Mr. Singh never held a firearm in this incident, correct?
Mr. Singh never held a firearm.
And Mr. Justin Davis never held a knife in this situation.
Mr. Singh did not state that Mr. Davis ever held a knife, but he said that I'm sorry. Were you going to say something?
I was going to ask my next question, but I'll wait until you complete your answer.
But in the beginning, he mentioned that the 5 black males, one had a gun and another was armed with a knife. So I cannot for certain say Mr. Davis did or did not have a knife.
Okay, so I believe your testimony previously was that Mr. Singh advised you that Mr. Thompson had a gun at one point and then had a knife at the other point. You remember that line of testimony?
Yes.
Okay. You never testified on direct examination that Mr. Justin Davis ever had a gun, correct?
I did not.
Nor did you ever testify on direct examination that Mr. Singh advised you that Mr. Justin Davis had a knife.
That's correct.
Okay. So as we sit here today and based on your testimony that we just heard, there is no evidence that Mr. Davis, Justin Davis, did anything to threaten Mr. Singh with a knife or a gun, correct?
I wouldn't know that because as I mentioned before, Mr. Singh said that when he was first entering the apartment, he was met by 5 black males dressed as females. One was armed with a gun and another was armed with a knife. So I cannot for sure say if Justin Davis had a knife or anything else. But I do know that after showing Mr. Singh the lineup, he stated that Mr. Thompson was initially armed with a gun and then later armed with a knife.
Okay, so based on your investigation, the only person at this point, based on your testimony, that Mr. Singh said he knows for certain had a knife or a gun is Mr. Thompson,
That is correct.
and not Mr. Justin Davis.
Objection, I didn't answer. He already explained how he actually said it was two different people, Your Honor.
He's asking answered. Move on.
Now, as it pertains to any threats, Mr. Singh never said that Mr. Justin Davis threatened him, correct?
He didn't particularize who threatened him at any point.
And it's important to know whether or not Mr. Justin Davis threatened him, correct?
It would be important.
I'm
But
sorry.
I believe it would be important. They are acting in one group to do this crime.
Well, remember, I asked you this question previously. Mere presence at the scene of a crime does not make an individual guilty, correct?
It does not.
And Mr. Justin Davis could have merely been present when other individuals were committing acts of crimes, correct?
Can I look at my notes real quick to see if, can I look at my notes just to see if it's mentioned in particular?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat your question? I
Okay.
apologize for that.
My question is regarding Mr. Justin Davis. It's important for us to determine what acts of crimes Mr. Justin Davis engaged in, correct?
Yeah.
All right. And as we sit here today, your testimony on direct examination does not allege that Mr. Justin Davis did any acts of criminal conduct against Mr. Singh, correct?
Yes, Your Honor, she's asking us, you already said move forward, Your Honor. You already said it was two people. He already said that was one of the person that was in the room, Your Honor. You already asked her to move forward in regards to this, Your Honor.
Your Honor, the witness has to review his records and then ask me to repeat my question.
Can you answer it?
Yeah, Mr. Singh did not particularize who did what. He referred to them as a group.
Okay. Let me ask my next question. You don't have any evidence connecting Mr. Justin Davis to an Airbnb transaction, correct?
I don't have any evidence of him doing a Airbnb transaction.
Okay. You also don't have any evidence of Mr. Justin Davis taking a $2,000 Zelle payment, correct?
I don't have any evidence of it, but I don't know if he was the one who made the transaction or not.
Okay. So the Zelle payment was made from Mr. Singh's phone to an account, correct?
It was.
To a Zelle account?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And the Zelle account, based on your investigation, was not connected that the money went to Mr. Justin Davis, correct?
Based on my investigation, I could not find a connection to Mr. Davis, to that account.
Okay. So as it pertains to the $2,000, you don't have any evidence that Mr. Justin Davis is a person who received that $2,000 Zelle payment.
That is correct.
Now, as it pertains to Mr. Singh, the only evidence you have as to why Mr. Justin Davis was charged was because you saw Mr. Davis in a video, correct?
That is incorrect. Mr. Justin Davis was identified by Mr. Singh in a photo lineup as one of the people involved in the crime.
Okay. And he was one of the people who was present. Is that what Mr. Singh told you?
I can't remember his exact words, but he did say that, yes, Mr. Davis was present.
Okay. And other than being present, he never connected Mr. Singh to any of the alleged offenses as it pertains to the Zelle payment or the knife or the gun, correct?
He never particularly pointed out Mr. Davis, but he didn't particularly point out anybody. He referred to a majority of that.
Well, that wouldn't be your testimony, because your testimony was that Mr. Singh specifically pointed out Mr. Thompson. Do you remember that testimony?
I was going to say, except for when he picked out Mr. Thompson, he specifically said this person was a person who was armed with a gun and later a knife. But for the other acts, he doesn't particularize who is doing what.
Okay, and Mr. Singh told you that this offense occurred on September the 13th?
That is correct. It's September the 13th going into September the 14th.
Okay, so which one would it be based on your investigation?
Objection, Your Honor. He already said that he got there at 11 p.m. and then left at 4 a.m. He already answered, Your Honor. He already said it was both days.
He did. He said that night going into the next morning. Move on.
Okay, so is it your testimony, sir, that Mr. Singh stated that he arrived on September the 13th? And that was approximately 11 p.m.?
Sometime after 11 p.m. is what Mr. Singh said.
Okay, but before midnight, based on his information.
But yes,
And he did not leave until September the 14th, approximately 4 a.m.
yes,
And he did not report this alleged crime until September the 18th.
yes,
That's 5 days after he alleged he was a victim of a crime, correct?
that's correct.
Detective, did you find it suspicious that an alleged victim who advised you that he flew out of the state of Georgia took 5 days to call you regarding an alleged crime?
Objection,
So-
speculation.
Yeah.
Your Honor, I'm asking him based on his 8 years of experience and as a detective with the Atlanta Police Department.
Go ahead.
In a standalone setting, I would find that suspicious, but due to the fact that this was a crime that 4 other similar crimes had occurred exactly how Mr. Singh had described. Also, the fact that the victims all seem to be appearing to try to get an escort showed me that they were probably embarrassed and did not want to call the police. During my investigation,
Objection.
Okay.
She asking a question.
Everybody's trying to answer your question.
during my investigation, I also discovered another victim who simply did not call the police at all. And we have no record of him calling the police. So it was not suspicious due to the circumstance.
Okay, so you did not find it suspicious based on your years of experience because you had other incidents? Is that your testimony?
Other incidents that were pretty much described the same way, same place, going to meet someone, but instead were met with transgender people who then took their cell phone and transferred money out, giving it back and letting them go.
Okay, now, the video that you testified to that you had, all of this footage came from the alleged victim, Mr. Singh, correct?
That is correct.
And you don't have any evidence that Mr. Singh did not modify these videos, correct?
Not these videos were sent to me by Mr. Singh.
And Mr. Singh has sent them to you on what day?
Don't know the day that he sent me the videos.
Did you get them on the day he actually called in the crime on September 18th, or did you get them after?
Objection, Your Honor. Ask and answer.
He said he didn't know the date.
Don't know the date.
Your Honor, I believe that I'm allowed to go into the videos that. the
You
officer-
are, but he said he doesn't know the date. I mean, he doesn't know the date. So
Right,
I
the
don't
judge,
want,
if
I don't want him making up a date. He said he doesn't know the date. If he can answer it, he can, but I don't want him making up a date.
He doesn't have to make one up, but he can at least tell me if it was after the date he got the call from the alleged victim.
I will object again, just for the record, Your Honor. If he already asked an answer, he said he do not know.
Your Honor, that's a speaking objection, and I would ask the court to have counsel just to give an objection regarding the law.
Hold on.
I don't know.
He doesn't know. There's his answer. He doesn't know.
Did you do a report in this case, sir?
I did.
And how many pages are your report?
Can I go and check?
Yes, sir. You have your report with you, correct?
I do not have my report with me.
You were referencing documents earlier today. That was not your report that you were referencing?
No, those are my notes.
Okay, so the notes that you have with you today, did you make them associated with your investigation of this case?
I did.
And how many pages are those notes?
The pages aren't marked numerically. I would have to sit there and count all the pages.
So more than 50? Approximately?
I guess.
All right. And in your approximate pages that you have there, is it your testimony that you don't have any notation as to when you were provided the videos that you allege have my client on them?
Objection, asked and answered.
He has answered he doesn't know. He's looked through them. Please move on.
Okay, other than being merely present, sir, but let me rephrase, I'll withdraw that question. The video footage, you allege that you have more than one, is that accurate?
Yes, there were 2 videos that I reviewed that was sent to me by Mr. Singh.
Did you do anything to get the videos from the actual source, meaning Apple or the phone company?
I later, after doing a search warrant and recovering several cell phones, I believe one of those videos might be on those cell phones. Search warrants were obtained and executed on those search warrants. We're still trying to extract the information from those cell phones.
Okay, so what did you see on the video that Mr. Singh gave you that Mr. Justin Davis was doing? The one video that you allege he's on?
In that video, it's just a group of them talking.
Okay, so Mr. Justin Davis is not committing any crimes as you can see in the video you watched?
No.
Okay, nothing further, Judge.
Okay. Mr. Crumley?
Yes, Your Honor. Detective, you're the one that actually took the report from Mr. Singh, is that correct?
I did.
And that initial report was on September 25th, 2022. Is that correct?
I believe so. Is that what you see?
Yeah.
I don't have my report. Oh, okay. Yeah.
And in particular, when you initially took the report from Mr. Singh, it stated one of the males was armed with a gun and another was armed with a knife. Is that correct?
That is correct.
When you initially took the report from Mr. Singh, he didn't say that one of the males was armed with a gun and that same individual also had a knife, did he?
He did not.
As it pertains to who took his wallet, I believe you said Mr. Singh couldn't particularize who did what besides what you said about Mr. Thompson having the gun and later having the knife. Is that correct?
I believe so.
In particular, he doesn't know who took his wallet.
I think he stated who took his wallet.
He didn't say that Mr. Thompson took his phone.
No, I don't believe he said that Mr. Thompson took his phone in particular either.
He didn't say that Mr. Thompson took the videos.
No, I don't believe he particularized who took the video either.
He didn't say that Mr. Thompson threatened him, did he?
He didn't particularize who threatened him either.
Now, as it pertains to this gun, did he describe the gun for you?
The only description I believe he gave me was a black gun.
Did he give you the make and model? Was it a Glock? Was it a Smith & Wesson?
No, No, he did not give me the make and model.
What about the caliber? 9mm, 40, 45?
I don't remember him giving me a caliber either. I don't believe he gave me one.
Did he tell you whether the gun was loaded or unloaded?
No.
In fact, he didn't tell you exactly where the gun was, did he?
What do you mean?
Well, he said Mr. Thompson had the gun. He didn't tell you whether or not Mr. Thompson had that gun on his holster and a holster on his hip, did he?
May I look at my notes?
Oh, absolutely.
I don't remember if he particularly told me if he had the gun in his hand or on his hip or anything. I would have to review my interview with Mr. Singh. I can't remember at this moment if he said if it was in his hand or in a holster or on his person. The only thing I can remember right now is that he was armed with a gun.
So, Detective, this interview that you have with Mr. Singh, is it video and audio recorded?
It's just audio.
So he didn't tell you whether Mr. Thompson had that gun in his front or back pocket.
Objection, ask and answer, Your Honor.
Go ahead, move on.
Let's talk about this knife. Did he give you a description of the knife?
He did not.
He didn't tell you if it was a short knife, a long knife,
Not that I can remember.
pocket knife?
Not that I can remember. He just said he had a knife.
And in particular, in looking at the statements that he gave you on the 25th and the subsequent statement that he gave, he didn't say where the knife was, did he?
No.
These videos you keep talking about, you named some of the people who were in the videos, but you didn't name Mr. Thompson. Is that correct?
That. Let me look at my notes again. I'm sorry. See it. I don't believe, or at least I can't remember if Mr. Thompson was seen. The only person I have, according to my notes, is Tarico Jackson and Justin Davis.
According to the narratives you provided in your police report, it does not state that Mr. Thompson was located in the videos. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Let's talk about this Zelle payment. There's no evidence that Mr. Thompson received that money. Is that correct?
That I have that connects Mr. Thompson to that Zelle payment.
And there's no evidence that you have that connects Mr. Thompson to the Airbnb. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So Mr. Singh says he was robbed on September 13, 2022. He reports it on September 18, 2022. And on October 7, 2022, he's shown a lineup. Is that correct?
Yes.
Lineup.
Yes, he's showing the photo lineup.
In fact, you weren't the one that showed him the photo lineup. Is that correct?
I did not.
It was somebody with the San Jose Police Department.
That's correct.
You mentioned something earlier that I wanted to go back to. How many photo lineups did you send the detective in San Jose?
I'm just gonna refer to my notes real quick.
Absolutely.
6.
6. Is that 6 separate photo lineups or one photo lineup containing 6 people?
6 separate photo lineups.
So in looking at your narrative, it appears that after Mr. Singh spoke with you and then Detective Wellman, that's when he comes up with this story that Raquez Thompson was the one armed with a black gun and a knife.
Objection. There's no question, Your Honor. What's the question?
What is the question?
Your Honor, the question is after he spoke to the detective in Atlanta and in San Jose is when he came up with this story that my client had the gun and later had the knife.
Objection again, Your Honor. I still didn't hear the question. What is
Looks
it?
like you're telling him something. What is the question for him?
May I rephrase it, Your Honor?
Please.
Detective, is it true that after you spoke to Mr. Singh and later he spoke with Detective Wellman of the San Jose Police Department, that is the first time that he had indicated that Mr. Thompson had?
Objection, compound question.
Woo, come on, guys. We got 2 more of these. Break it down. Make it simple.
Detective, the first time that we learned that Mr. Thompson had a gun and a knife was after he spoke to Detective Wellman. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's after he's able to finally identify someone and I believe attribute something to them.
Did you have any subsequent conversations with Mr. Singh after October 7, 2022?
After October 7th, 2022, let me try to look real quick to see if I have anything. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I am not sure. I don't have any notes that show that I contacted him, but these are several different cases, so I don't have all of my notes in front of me.
As you sit here today, you don't have any notes in front of you that says that you spoke to Mr. Singh after October 7, 2022.
What he
Objection,
said.
That's correct.
answer. He just looked at his stuff, said he didn't have everything in front of him, Your Honor. We can go forward. We still got a couple of cases, Your Honor.
That is what he said. Let's move on.
Detective, Mr. Singh never told you that Raquez Thompson was the person armed with the black gun and later armed with a knife. Is that correct?
I can't remember if he specifically told me or if that's what he told Detective Wellman.
Or did you speak to Mr. Singh after he did the photo ID with Detective Wellman?
Objection, asked and answered, Your Honor. He said he do not know if he talked to him after the phone call, Your Honor.
Your Honor, what I'm getting at is this.
Your Honor, the defense is ready to go ahead and testify, Your Honor. He's about to give a testimony.
Let's go, guys. Gentlemen, ask him a question. The horse is on the way to the glue factory, dead as a doornail. So it's going to beat us to the glue factory. So ask him a question.
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, I simply want to know this. Did Mr. Singh tell you, detective, that Mr. Thompson was the person with the gun and later armed with a knife?
I can't tell you right now. I don't know right now. Without being able to review like everything, I can't tell you if I spoke to him before or after. I just can't tell you. But I know that at some point, it was indicated that Mr. Thompson was a person who had a gun and later had a knife.
Nothing
Next
further.
question.
Okay. Two quick questions. You said Mr. Singh was threatened with pictures of them touching him,
Kissing.
kissing. Where were they kissing him at?
Inside the apartment, 396 Piedmont Avenue, apartment 1051.
Think he meant on the lips or where?
Oh, he didn't indicate that.
Okay, no further questions, Your Honor.
Anything else on this case?
Nothing else on this case, Your Honor. We are ready to go ahead and proceed to the last case. Detective is Aleem Momin, Momin is the victim, and it is cause number 22 CP 213478, and it is involving both defendants, Justin Davis and Raquez Thompson.
All right, 7-8, that's ag assault, armed robbery, criminal attempt to commit a felony, false imprisonment. That's against Mr. Davis and Mr. Thompson. It's same case number, possession of firearm during the mission of or attempt to commit certain felonies, ag assault, armed robbery, criminal attempt to commit a felony, and false imprisonment. Go ahead.
Detective, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Detective Lucen, were you employed with APD on October 5th, 2022?
Yes.
And during this time, were you investigating Raquez Thompson and Justin Davis?
Yes.
And did you learn of a victim named Aleem, Alim Momin, Momin?
Yes.
And please tell me about your investigation regarding victim Aleem Momin.
Mr. Momin, on October 5th, 2022, was set to meet a female named Alexis from a dating website. Upon his arrival, he was met by a heavyset transgender person who opened the door and stated that her roommate was in the shower. He came in, he sat down, and let me just look real quick. He came in, he sat down, and was then approached by 3 other transgender people who demanded that he pay his money right now. Mr. Momin refused to give them any money, and hold on. Mr. Momin refused to give them any money. And at this point, one of the transgender people produced a handgun and stated to him if he didn't give him the money that they would kill him. I'm sorry, I paused.
Go ahead, that's it.
Oh, okay. Mr. Momin still refused and stated at that point all 4 people that were present started punching and kicking him, trying to take his, I believe, his watch and his cell phone from him. After they stopped, one of the transgender people demanded that he pay them with Cash App. And when he stated he didn't have any Cash App, he was assaulted again, according to Mr. Momin. And after being assaulted multiple times, not sure how many times, he then agreed to pay them via Zelle. So Mr. Momin initially has sent a $500 Zelle, which came up as a pending transaction. And then he tried to send a $250 Zelle to make the transaction go through, and was eventually let go. And at that point, as soon as he was let go, the first thing he did was cancel both transactions and made contact with police. He then later received some threatening messages from 2 other phone numbers.
And how many people was in the room when this occurred?
I believe it was 4.
And did you talk with Mr. Moment?
I did eventually speak with Mr. Moment.
And was he able to identify everybody in the room?
He was not able to identify everyone in the room, but he was able to identify 3 people.
And was he able to identify Raquez Thompson?
He was.
And how did he do that identification?
He was presented with a photo lineup of Raquez Thompson, and he picked Mr. Thompson out of a 6-person photo lineup.
Was he able to identify Justin Davis?
Yes, he was.
And how did he do that?
Same. He was presented with a photo lineup of Justin Davis and was able to pick out Mr. Davis in a 6-person photo lineup.
Did he, at the incident, did everybody participate in the attack against him?
Yes.
Did everybody punch?
Yes.
Did everybody kick?
Yes.
Was everyone armed?
No. According to Mr. Moman, only one person was armed with a firearm. And just to make sure, in a later interview, he did state that one of them was also armed with what he described as like a metal stick. He doesn't really know where it came from. He suspects that it might have been like off of a lamp or something, but it was some kind of like metal pole or stick.
Okay. And so was he able to describe who was armed while in the apartment?
He did not particularize which person was armed.
And did he suffer any injuries?
He did.
What injuries did he suffer?
If I remember correctly, he had a small lump on his head and a couple of scratch marks from the tussle.
And did you review the attempted Zelle payments?
I did.
And was you able to determine the recipient?
I don't believe I was.
Was he free to leave the apartment?
He was not.
And in this case, did they take his cell phone?
No, they did not take his cell phone.
Did they take anything from him?
But later, when I spoke to him, they were able to take his watch, but he was able to convince them to return his watch before he left.
When they took his watch, was any of the participants armed?
Yes. Yes.
And when he spoke with you, I know you discussed a little bit of it. Can you please tell me about the conversation you had with Mr. Moment?
I later asked Mr. Moment to have a interview with me, And during that interview, Mr. Moman did admit that he was not actually on a dating website, that he was actually on an escort website, and showed me the profiles that he tried to make contact with, and some of the messages that himself and that profile like had with each other.
Okay.
And yeah, that was pretty much it. The rest of Mr. Moman's account of the incident is pretty much the same as what he gave to the officers.
And what address was this at?
Mr. Moman had actually come in contact with two different numbers that day. The first number gave him the address of 396 Piedmont Avenue. Due to some discrepancies that Mr. Moman found with the profile, he decided to ignore that particular set of messages and instead contacted a different profile, which then gave him the address 144 Courier Street. 144 Courier Street is just a different entrance to 396 Piedmont Avenue.
And what county is that in?
It's in Fulton County.
And do you see the two defendants that Mr. Moman identified, and defendant number one, Justin Davis, in the courtroom?
I do.
Address them with what they're wearing and their location, if you don't mind.
Mr. Justin Davis is a lighter complexion black male with braids tied up in a bun. He's wearing a blue shirt with a gray sweatshirt underneath. He's sitting at the far right defense table marked SCA 1A defendant for short.
And that's in the Zoom picture that you're looking at. And do you see Raquez Thompson in the courtroom?
Yes, Raquez Thompson is a brown-skinned male with short hair, with a blue shirt over a white thumb, sitting at the middle defense table, which is marked SCA 1A podium.
And that is on the Zoom picture that you're looking at. I have no further questions at this time, Your Honor.
I'll note these, identified them both. Greg Cross.
Thank you, Judge. Detective, your testimony was that this incident occurred on what date?
October 5th, 2022.
I'm sorry, the Zoom.
October 5th, 2022, 10/5/2022.
And approximately what time of day did the alleged victim tell you this occurred?
Sometime in the early morning hours. So maybe around 1 something in the morning, I believe.
So 1 a.m. in the morning on October the 5th?
So I don't have the exact time that he gave in front of me right now, but I have when the officers were dispatched.
Okay, so the officers were dispatched to where?
The officers were dispatched to 120 Piedmont Ave Northeast. That is a racetrack that's not too far from the location.
And that's a racetrack gas station?
Yes.
So at approximately 1 a.m. on October the 5th of 2022, officers were dispatched to a 120 Avenue Northeast at a racetrack gas station. Is that accurate?
No. On October the 5th, 2022, at approximately 1:40 a.m., officers were dispatched to 120 Piedmont Avenue in reference to that armed robbery. I believe that armed robbery happened sometime just before that time.
Okay. So the date of the incident could have been October the 4th.
Don't believe so. When I spoke to Mr. Moman, he said it was early morning hours of that day.
Okay. Now, was Mr. Moman the person who contacted law enforcement from the racetrack gas station?
So
And do you know the responding officer?
I do not.
Were you contacted to come to the location where the officers responded?
I was not.
Did you ever go to that location once you were called into this case?
Which location?
To the 120 Piedmont Avenue?
I did not in reference to this case.
Okay. Now, what date did you begin your involvement in this case?
I don't have the time or the day that I was actually assigned this case. I would assume that day or the next day.
Okay. Now, how long have you been investigating this particular case?
From when it happened or overall?
Is it from October the 5th?
I guess it would be either that day or the next day.
Okay. And in terms of your investigation, other than speaking with Mr. Momin, what, if anything, did you do?
I went to the location 396 Piedmont Avenue. 396 Piedmont Avenue, based on what door he said he went into to look to see if it's the same door.
Okay. And when you got to 396 Piedmont Avenue, did your investigation lead you to any particular apartment?
Yeah, based on what Mr. Momin had said and the previous incidences there, it was apartment 1051.
Okay. And is that apartment 1051 leased to any particular person?
Yes, that apartment is leased to a Raquise Thompson.
Now, was Mr. Momin able to describe the apartment at 1051 leased to Mr. Raquise Thompson?
He was able to describe it to me during our interview. I couldn't tell you this particular description at this moment.
Okay. And none of your notes that you have with you today provides that information to refresh your memory? I'm sorry?
No, it's not.
When did you speak with Mr. Momin?
Oh, it was on the 5th. It was October the 5th. I spoke to Mr. Momin the day of the incident later that day.
Okay. Now, as it pertains to Mr. Justin Davis, is it your testimony that 4 individuals were assaulting Mr. Momin at the exact same time, based on your investigation?
So when Mr. Momin said, yes.
Okay. So 4 people are kicking him, 4 people are punching him all at the same time?
Yes.
Was he able to describe how each person was hitting him at the same time?
No.
So you just got a conclusory statement that everybody was hitting at the same time?
Yes.
Okay. Now, as it pertains to any weapons, Mr. Momin did not advise you that Mr. Justin Davis used a gun or pointed a gun at him, correct?
He didn't particularize who had the gun.
Okay. And Mr. Momin never told you that Mr. Justin Davis used a knife to attack him or threaten him, correct?
No, I don't believe a knife was mentioned.
And Mr. Momin did not tell you that Mr. Justin Davis took his cell phone?
He didn't particularize who tried to take his cell phone.
Okay. And that's important information when we're pressing charges against someone, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. There no questions was asked.
Make a question.
That is a question, Judge. I'm asking him if it's important for him to determine who the suspect or who engaged in what acts when we're talking about charging someone with crime?
It's not particularized to this exact incident, Your Honor.
I'm asking about this incident.
What are you talking, you're asking about in general?
In this incident, I'm asking the detective or the investigator if it's important for us to be able to determine what criminal acts my client engaged in.
You can answer it if you know how.
It would be important if that information was available.
So is it your testimony to this court that you're just speculating as to what conduct our client engaged in on the date of October the 5th?
No, your client acting with a group did rob Mr. Moman.
Okay, what specifically did our client, Mr. Justin Davis, take from Mr. Moman?
His watch, acting as a group. I don't know if he particularly is the one who was able to take the watch off of Mr. Moman. I just know that the group acting together committed the crime and did take a watch from him.
Okay, when Mr. Justin Davis was arrested, was the watch found on his person or at his home or anywhere in his personal belongings?
No, Mr. Moman stated that he was able to convince the group to give him back his watch.
Okay, so the watch then was not taken by Mr. Justin Davis. Because Mr. Moman got his watch back, right?
He got his watch back.
So the watch was not taken by Mr. Davis, or you don't know who took the watch?
I don't know who took the watch.
Okay. Now, as it pertains to the Zelle payment, you don't have any evidence in your investigation or your notes before you today that Mr. Justin Davis received a Zelle payment from the alleged victim, Mr. Moman, correct?
The Zelle payment never went through. Both attempted Zelle payments were pending, and Mr. Moman was immediately able to cancel those before they can go through.
Okay, so based on your investigation, you don't have any evidence of where Mr. Moman alleged to have originally sent the Zelle payments, correct?
Not.
So you can't prove if it was an email address connected to Mr. Justin Davis.
I cannot.
You cannot prove it was a cell phone number set up with Zelle that is connected to Mr. Davis.
I cannot, not at this moment.
Other than you did you have a video of Mr. Davis being present at the location of the incident?
No.
Okay. Do you have any photographs of Mr. Justin Davis being present at the incident location?
No.
Did Mr. Moman give you a cell phone to show if there was any evidence that was on the cell phone that would depict that Mr. Justin Davis was involved in any criminal conduct on the date of the incident?
No.
And other than the fact that you believe or that Mr. Moman could identify Mr. Davis, you don't have any evidence that Mr. Davis was doing any criminal conduct on the date, correct? October the 5th.
Well, the fact that he was identified and Mr. Moman stated that a group attacked him and took his watch, that's what I have.
Okay. No further questions. Thank you, Judge.
Mr. Crumley?
Yes, Your Honor. Detective, who did Mr. Moman say threatened to kill him?
He didn't particularize.
So based on that, it's fair to say that Mr. Moman cannot say or did not say that Mr. Thompson threatened to kill him. Is that correct?
Objection, calls for speculation.
I think he's saying somebody did it and this guy doesn't know who did it.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Go ahead.
You said that Mr. Thompson had a gun. Did Mr. Moman tell you where that gun was located?
I don't believe Mr. Moman stated who particularly had the gun.
Outstanding, even better. Let's continue on. These threatening text messages, do you know who they came from?
I received 2 phone numbers from Mr. Moman I believe I'm still, I don't have it in front of me, but I don't believe I was able to connect those two cell phones to any particular person at the time.
All right. As it pertains to the Zelle payments, you never sent a subpoena or a search warrant to Zelle to figure out who the recipients were, did you?
Not in this case.
So you have no way of determining that Mr. Thompson was one of the recipients. Is that correct? As you sit here today?
That I say here today, I can't.
You know, I was listening and something just stuck out to me. Before, when he spoke to the officer, I believe it was Officer Dillon. He said that he was on a dating website. Is that correct?
Yes.
But that's not what he told you.
Yeah, Mr. Moman initially stated that he was on a dating website, but once I asked him to be a little bit more truthful, he admitted and showed me that he was actually on an escort website.
Was this interview recorded?
Yes.
Now, after Mr. Moman contacted the police and they interviewed him, they didn't go out to the apartment, did they?
I don't believe so, but I'm not sure. You probably have to ask the officers who responded.
There's nothing in your notes as you sit here today that says that the officers went to the apartment that's leased by Mr. Thompson. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Anything else from the state?
Nothing else at this time, Your Honor. I will submit on the evidence as of right now. And also, I know we probably have argument and I have a short argument, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, officer. Stay healthy and safe.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Go over the argument.
I'll go first with my argument, Your Honor. Your Honor, we have multiple cases of a
Take your
group.
time. Take your time.
We have multiple cases of a group that is targeting males that's looking for escort, Your Honor. And as we heard the testimony, it was regular, it was a particularized, and then the level of violence started to increase, Your Honor. We have multiple people that's in the room, multiple people that's there. You have multiple people that's blocking the doors. We have weapons that's being passed around. We have individuals that are afraid and do not know what to do, going into a room that they're expecting something else. And I believe that the officer was able to testify and show the individualized aspect of each and every case. With multiple victims, they were able to identify and recognize each and every defendant on each case. On case ended in 009, Justin Davis was properly identified by Mr. Kane Yu. In case ended in 010, Raquez Thompson was properly identified by Raul Singla. In the case ending in 246, both Justin Davis and Raquez Thompson was identified by the defendant Gurpal Singh. And for lastly, in case ending in 478, Raquez Thompson and Justin Davis was identified as the person who committed the acts by Eileen Moman. Your Honor, I ask that you find probable cause for all of the cases that are before the court at this time.
All right. Who wants to go first? Oh, you're on mute, ma'am.
Your Honor, in keeping with how we've been proceeding, I'll go first.
Sure.
Your Honor, as it pertains to 22 CP 213009, we have an alleged victim, Mr. Kang Yu. And based on the evidence before the court, what we have is an investigator who's testified that Mr. Justin Davis never pointed a gun at an alleged victim. Mr. Justin Davis never made any threats to an alleged victim. Mr. Justin Davis was not the person blocking the door based on the description of the clothing of the individual alleged to have been blocking a door. Mr. Justin Davis was not the person wearing a black hoodie as alleged to be the individual that was holding a firearm once the individuals got into the Mercedes. Mr. Justin Davis never took anything, and the video footage that the investigator was able to look at merely showed Mr. Justin Davis present at a pharmacy with the alleged victim in this case. And if we are to go by the video footage, which has no audio based on the testimony of this officer, Mr. Davis is running from the alleged victim in this case. No one knows what was said to Mr. Davis by the alleged victim. There's no evidence that Mr. Davis has taken anything of value from this alleged victim. And in fact, I believe the investigator's testimony, Investigator Markin's testimony, was that no weapon whatsoever was seen on the video footage, not hidden, not a simulated weapon at all. So when you look at the evidence in this case and you look at the facts and you are to determine whether there's probable cause to bind a case over for taxpayers to spend thousands of dollars trying to proceed with the state on a case, we find that the state has failed to prove that other than walking into a pharmacy on video and running away from the alleged victim, the state has failed to meet its burden of probable cause to show that Mr. Justin Davis committed the offense of armed robbery, which is an offense of a robbery when the intent to commit theft or he takes property of another for the person or the immediate presence of another by use of an offensive weapon. There's no offensive weapon that was testified to, and the state has not presented any evidence of any offensive weapon being used by Mr. Justin Davis. So as it pertains to the armed robbery count, we're asking the court to dismiss that count. As it pertains to the false imprisonment count, the court has to find that Mr. Justin Davis engaged in falsely imprisoning the alleged victim, Mr. Yu, in this case. There was absolutely no testimony from the investigator Markins that Mr. Justin Davis physically prevented Mr. Yu from leaving the apartment. There was no testimony that Mr. Justin Davis physically prevented Mr. Yu from leaving the CVS pharmacy. There was no testimony that Mr. Justin Davis physically forced Mr. Yu into an automobile where he was transported, if so, to a pharmacy. We also don't have any evidence of any threats whatsoever. And all we have is mere conjecture and speculation that inside Mr. Yu's head, he thought he was not free to go. Therefore, we have no evidence, and the state has failed to meet its burden of probable cause to show that Mr. Justin Davis committed the offense of false imprisonment. Therefore, we would respectfully request that the taxpayers' money not be wasted on this charge. As it pertains to kidnapping, we also don't have any testimony from Investigator Markins that Mr. Justin Davis engaged in acts of kidnapping, physically forcing or removing Mr. Yu's body from an apartment complex and taking him physically to a pharmacy with the threat of a weapon or any type of simulated weapon. Therefore, we're respectfully requesting that the charge as it pertains to kidnapping be dismissed in this case. This is regarding the 22 CP 213009 as alleged regarding victim Khan Yu. Does the court prefer that I go through to?
Sure, knock it out.
As it pertains to 22 CP 213246, Mr. Justin Davis, Your Honor, also, there's no evidence of the investigator testified that Mr. Justin Davis did not have a gun. He testified that Mr. Justin Davis did not have a knife. In fact, there wasn't even any testimony that Mr. Justin Davis had a simulated weapon. There was testimony that Mr. Justin Davis did not take the alleged victim in this case, Mr. Singh's phone. There's no testimony that Mr. Justin Davis received a $2,000 Zelle payment, or that any email address connecting Mr. Justin Davis to a Zelle account where money was sent to by Mr. Singh, or that Mr. Justin Davis was involved in any Airbnb. In fact, the Airbnb charge was connected to, I believe it's a Mr. Tarico Jackson. I may be mispronouncing the name. Mr. Justin Davis is not Tarico Jackson, nor was he connected to Mr. Jackson by family or by marriage or by any testimony in this case. There's also a video that the officer testified to. And according to the testimony, Mr. Davis only appears on one video. And the one video that Mr. Justin Davis appeared on shows him talking in a group. I commit to this court that talking, the last time I checked, in a group does not in and of itself cause an individual to be engaging in acts of criminal conduct that would support armed robbery. Armed robbery is when a person commits the offense of armed robbery and with the intent to commit a theft. He or she takes property of another for the person or the immediate presence of another by use of an offensive weapon. There's no testimony of an offensive weapon being used by Mr. Justin Davis as it pertains to this case and the alleged victim, Mr. Singh. We also don't have any testimony of Mr. Justin Davis falsely imprisoning Mr. Singh. We don't have any testimony about Mr. Justin Davis involved in computer theft. In fact, I didn't even hear a testimony about a computer. And if we're calling the cell phone the computer, there was no testimony that Mr. Justin Davis touched, possessed, or tried to possess any cell phone belonging to Mr. Singh. So as it pertains to the false imprisonment count, the computer theft account, the armed robbery count, we're asking the court to dismiss those charges for the state's failure to prove that there's probable cause to bind this case over and burden the Fulton County taxpayers with a matter such as this. As it pertains to the count regarding computer invasion of privacy, I still to this point have not heard any testimony that would support a charge of computer invasion of privacy. There was no testimony that Mr. Justin Davis took anything of value or anything from the cell phone of Mr. Singh and used it to invade Mr. Singh's privacy. In fact, a lot of the testimony from this investigator sounds as if they are clueless as to who all was present and who engaged in what criminal conduct. But as it pertains to our client, we submit to this court that justice demands a dismissal of the armed robbery count, the false imprisonment count, the computer theft count, and the computer invasion of privacy count as it pertains to the alleged victim, Mr. Singh. As it pertains to the case 22 CP 213478, submit to the court that there's this global global conclusory conjecture testimony now. And I assume that this investigator realized that the testimony has to be a little bit more specific based on his testimony in 009 and 426, which was a bit vague. Now he's globalizing as to all individuals who were present are now kicking Mr. Momin. All individuals who are present are now punching Mr. Momin. But for absent that testimony, we don't have an aggravated assault here. We don't have an armed robbery. Once again, there's been no testimony even on cross-examination. Cross-examination was that the Zelle payment was not connected to Mr. Justin Davis because Mr. Momin didn't even go through with it. I still ask the question on cross-examination. Could you even, detective or investigator, connect an email account that it was attempting to go to? No, I do not have that information. Do you have a cell phone number connected to Zelle? Because you have to have that for a Zelle account that it was going to that's connected to Mr. Justin Davis. The response was no, I don't have that. We don't have Mr. Justin Davis taking a cell phone from Mr. Momin. We don't have Mr. Justin Davis doing anything associated with armed robbery, which requires, once again, the offense of armed robbery, intent to commit theft. He takes or she takes property of another from the person or immediate presence of another by use of an offensive weapon. There's no testimony that Mr. Justin Davis had an offensive weapon, a simulated weapon, a gun, a firearm, a knife, anything that would show that it was a weapon. Therefore, we're asking the court to dismiss the aggravated assault count, the armed robbery count, the criminal attempt to commit a felony count, and the false imprisonment count as it pertains to Mr. Justin Davis. If the court is inclined to believe the investigator's testimony, when he globalized the acts of the four individuals and stated that Mr. Justin Davis was one of the individuals kicking or punching the alleged victim in this case, then I submit to the court, the only count that the court could potentially proceed on would be the aggravated assault count, because that is the only count that merely and barely shows that Mr. Justin Davis may have been involved in any criminal conduct based on the investigator's testimony, that the alleged victim, Mr. Momin, had injuries, and that Mr. Justin Davis was one of the individuals who was kicking or punching him. So in that situation, we would have to concede to the court that you may have probable cause as it pertains to just the aggravated assault count. We respectfully submit that every single count in every other case, all three of them charged against our client, not to proceed to the Superior Court, and that if the court is inclined, that the only one that merely might even make the cut is the aggravated assault count as it pertains to 22 CP 213478. And we respectfully request, Your Honor, since our client's held over 90 days, that a reasonable bond be set in this case, allowing him to bond himself out. Because as we sit today, he's still unindicted. He's been in custody since approximately September of 2022. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Crombie, go ahead.
Your Honor, as it pertains to Mr. Singler, that's 22 CP 1310. Your Honor, my first issue as to why there's no probable cause of the majority of these charges is the detective statement itself, where he just has these generalizations of they. It was them, but it was very hard for them to nail down who exactly did what, as counsel just mentioned. For example, took the phone. Who took the phone? Had the taser. Who took the taser? And those are individual things that they cannot point to. Mr. Thompson transferred $3,000 from one bank account to another. He didn't say Mr. Thompson did it. ATM machine, $500 cash withdrawal. No ATM video. Couldn't say that Mr. Thompson was the one that did it. And Your Honor, these are important things that come into play when determining whether there's probable cause as to the specificity of what my client, Mr. Thompson, did. Now, Your Honor, yes, he did state that Mr. Thompson held and used his phone. Your Honor, when you look at in terms of an invasion of privacy, it's got to be for certain matters. Uses a computer or computer network with the intention of examining any employment, medical, salary, credit, or other financial or personal data without the other person's knowledge or permission. Your Honor, in this case, he cannot say that Mr. Thompson used his phone to one, check Mr. Thompson's own email, get on Facebook. He can't say whether he searched the internet while that phone was in his possession. But what we do know is that Mr. Thompson was not one of the recipients of the Zelle payment. And he was not the one at the ATM. Now, Your Honor, we all know you can get a subpoena or a search warrant to determine who the recipients were. But the detective did not feel that was necessary to do at this stage and to present to this court. Your Honor, as it pertains to the false imprisonment, there is no evidence before this court that Mr. Thompson is the one who threatened Mr. Singh at all in this case. In fact, Mr. Singh can't even tell who threatened him. Your Honor, as it pertains to the armed robbery, you've already heard testimony that the gun, can't talk about the location. He didn't specify whether it was on a holster, whether it was on a table. He couldn't specify. Couldn't specify the location of the taser. So, Your Honor, it's our position that there is no probable cause to proceed with binding this case over. Your Honor, continuing on over to 22 CP 213246, Your Honor, one has to pause for a moment and ask themselves, if this crime occurred on September 13th, 2022, he leaves the next day and he travels from Atlanta, Georgia, all the way to San Jose, California, and reports this on September 18th. And this was important. He said, the detective said that he reported this when he felt safe and comfortable. So he didn't feel safe and comfortable for 5 days. So, Your Honor, we start right there with that suspicion about what's going on in this case. Again, Mr. Singh could not particularize who did what. We get the same generalizations. They, 5 black males, grabbed and thrown on the couch. One was armed with a gun and then later with a knife, as which he attributes to Mr. Thompson. But as it pertains to that, where was the gun, Your Honor? Where was the knife? Was it on him? Did he point it at him? Was it more than 10 feet away? Those are all important elements when determining the basis for possession of a firearm or knife during the commission of a felony. As it pertains to the actual cell phone, where is the testimony that Mr. Thompson was the one that actually had his cell phone? Even in the videos, Thompson wasn't in the videos. As it pertains to the Zelle payment, there's no evidence that Mr. Thompson made the transaction or received the money. The Airbnb does not point back to Mr. Thompson, Your Honor. But what I found also interesting is something that was mentioned, and from
my standpoint, I think he's paused, Your Honor.
He froze.
Yeah.
mentioned, Your Honor.
Mr. Kremlin, you froze there for a second.
Your Honor, you have to love Time Warner. But Your Honor, what I was getting at is he didn't make the statement that Mr. Thompson was the individual who had a gun and then later had the knife until after he talked to the detectives in San Jose. He had a chance to bring that to the detective in this case. He didn't say it. He didn't say it. So why? Why? Because generalize, Mr. Singh didn't particularize who did what. And as it pertains to these individuals, Your Honor, it is important to know what Mr. Thompson actually did. Because if he committed a crime, we want to make sure he gets a fair trial and see if he's held accountable for it. So, Your Honor, as it pertains to the second case, where's the intent to commit a felony by Mr. Thompson? It's not there. He doesn't say that Mr. Thompson is the individual that stood, between him and the door so he couldn't leave. He can't particularize who it was. Where's the false imprisonment? It's because he felt like he couldn't leave. Your Honor, this time I'm sitting in my house and I feel like I can't leave, but I'm not falsely imprisoned. The computer theft and invasion, Your Honor. One, there's no testimony of a computer being used here. As it pertains to the phone, we've already addressed that. So, Your Honor, as it pertains to the first count, there's no probable cause. As it pertains to the possession of a firearm, there's not sufficient evidence to know where that gun was located or where that knife was located. If it's outside of 10 feet, then, Your Honor, it's our position there's no probable cause on that one as well. Your Honor, as to the last case with Mr. Moman, this one was particularly important, especially considering that Mr. Thompson is being charged with possession of a firearm or a knife, aggravated assault, aggravated assault, armed robbery, criminal attempt to commit a felony, and false imprisonment. But Your Honor, the detective stood here today. He stood here today and he said, Mr. Moman didn't particularize who did what. He couldn't particularize that Mr. Thompson was the one with a firearm. So again, Your Honor, as it pertains to the theft of the property and the commission of a robbery, the watch was taken, but it was given back. The Zelle didn't go through. And again, as a former prosecutor, what I would have done is I would have subpoenaed or did a search warrant to Zelle to figure out, hey, what are these transactions going to? Because that information is vital to me identifying which one of these co-defendants, if any, are the ones that committed these crimes. Your Honor, also equally important is how Mr. Moment was not candid when he was initially interviewed. When he said it was a dating website, but later after being pushed by the detective, he admitted that, yeah, I was on an escort website. And Your Honor, I will tell you why.
Pros again, Your Honor.
So dramatic, right?
Yeah.
One. His best point, one. Mr. Crumley, you said one and then you froze. It was very dramatic.
Well, thank you, Your Honor. Let me see where I left off. Your Honor, he was less than truthful when speaking with the detective in this case initially. And I'm glad that the interview was recorded because I want to know what was said that could be exculpatory to Mr. Thompson in this case, Your Honor. So as there is no particularity as to which crimes that Mr. Thompson may have committed, I would ask this court to find that there's no probable cause.
All right. What says the state?
Your Honor, the officer was able to go through, he was able to go through and explain each and every charge, each and every victim, Your Honor. They were able to go ahead, and the most important aspect of this, Your Honor, is the identification, Your Honor, because it just wasn't sprayed across everybody. It was an identification 6-pack that was done for everybody, for each defendant. And these defendants were continuously picked out, Your Honor, on a regular and consistent basis, Your Honor. They were able to go ahead and in regards to position, the last three is 478. It was said everybody was involved in the beatdown, Your Honor. Everybody was punching, everybody was kicking, everybody was attacking the person at the same time, Your Honor. In regards to position 246, Your Honor, they put the gun in Mr. Thompson's hand. They put the knife inside Mr. Thompson's hand. And then also at the time, we have reluctant witnesses, Your Honor, because they are looking for escort services, Your Honor. But they were able to go ahead and still identify and still say what happened, what occurred, and then go ahead and individually tie the defendants to the crime at the time and how they were victimized, Your Honor. In regards to the last 301, 010, at this time, it was only one person that was identified. It was only one person that was there. It was only one person in regards to the bank card, Your Honor, that was taken from that person. And Mr. Yu, that was the very first case, and everybody surprised because they went into a room going for the escort services, and then they're surrounded by 5 different people. And then the individuals are committing the crimes that they did. Your Honor, once again, I ask that the court find probable cause in each and every case that is before the court right now.
All right, well, thank goodness I can't be on the jury because they're going to have a time with this one. Let's see. So we'll start with Mr. Davis. So that's position 1, 4, and 5. Ms. Miller?
Yes, Judge.
Okay, you guys, okay. So when I look at it, there's a whole bunch of people there putting this thing on Tinder, Grinder, Flipper, whatever, I don't know, something. So both of you gonna stay off social media, any dating sites, period. Absolutely, off of them, all right? But, so it looks like maybe on the armed robbery on the first one, I'll dismiss that for failure to prove, but false imprisonment and kidnapping. I'll find probable cause on that on position 1, on position 4. I'll find probable cause on all those counts. And on position 5, I'll find probable cause on all those counts. Or for Mr. Thompson, I'll find probable cause on each and every count in 2, 3, and 6. Now, let's be heard on bond.
First arrest for both defendants, Judge.
That was easy. All right, go ahead on bond. Who wants to go first? Ma'am, you want to go first?
I'll go first, Your Honor, since we're gonna just keep it consistent. Your Honor, we have spoken to our client's adopted mother, godmother, Miss Kelly Cooper. She is willing to assist with bond. Our client's never been arrested before, has no prior arrest, no convictions. We are respectfully requesting that the court set a reasonable bond in this case as it pertains to 22 CP 2133009. We're asking for, I believe the court dismissed armed robbery and is going forward on false imprisonment and kidnapping. Am I accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
We'd ask for a reasonable bond on the false imprisonment, Your Honor, of $5,000 based on our client not having any priors and no convictions. We would ask for $2,500 on the kidnapping, Judge. We would also ask for on the second warrant number, which is the 22 CP 213246. As it pertains, the court is going forward on all counts on this one, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
On the armed robbery, Your Honor, we would respectfully request a reasonable bond of $5,000 on that bond, on that charge. On the false imprison charge, we would ask for the same $2,500 charge. Our client's been in custody quite some time, Your Honor, so he's lost his job. Family members and friends are going to have to get together to assist him, but he should be able to get back on his feet once he's released and be able to get back gainful employment. However, in order to get out, he's going to need the assistance of others. Well, on the false imprisonment, we're asking for the same $2,500 as we requested on the previous case. As it pertains to the computer theft charge, we're asking for $1,000 on that one. As it pertains to the computer invasion charge, we're asking for $1,000 bond on that charge. And as it pertains to the 22 CP 213478, the charge of aggravated assault, we're asking for the same bond amount as the armed robbery, Judge, which would be $5,000. We're asking for the same amount on the previous armed robbery, which is $5,000. We're asking on the criminal attempt to commit felony, $2,500. We're asking for on the false imprisonment, $2,500.
All right.
These are reasonably, Your Honor, based on our client's history, based on the fact that he's never been in trouble before, he's not on probation, he's not had any other prior charges.
Where's he going to live?
He is going to live, Your Honor, at, let me give you the address. I obtained that this morning. We have 852 Garden Walk Boulevard, apartment K5, College Park, Georgia, 30349. We received that information from his granddad this morning, Mr. Joel Jackson.
Is that on the Fulton County or Clayton County side of College Park?
That looks like the Clayton County side, Judge.
Clayton, okay. All right, go ahead, Mr. Crumley.
Your Honor, as it pertains to case ending in 13010, the armed robbery. Your Honor, we would ask for 5,000 on that one, the false imprisonment, 2,500, the computer invasion of privacy, $1,000. Now, Your Honor, I'll tell you, Mr. Thompson does not ordinarily live in Atlanta. He moved down here to get a job. He was working at Target, and he hooked up with these individuals. His mother and his sister and the majority of his family do reside in the Chicago, Illinois area. I did speak to his mother this morning, and she wanted me to communicate one thing. She's like, my son is, he's not a bad guy. And I told her, ma'am, I understand. This is a process we have to go through. And she was like, I just want you to know he's not a bad guy. He's just hooked up with these people. I said, yes, ma'am, I understand that. But Your Honor, she is vested. She's keeping in contact along with his sister regarding the status of this case. My client doesn't have any prior convictions. So we would ask that the court order a reasonable bond in that case. Your Honor, moving on to 22 CP 213-246. Your Honor, again, we would ask for on the armed robbery, $5,000, false imprisonment, $2,500, the computer theft and the computer invasion of privacy, 1,000 each on those, Your Honor. The possession of a firearm, Your Honor, we would ask for a bond of 5,000 on that one as well. Your Honor, continuing down to position 6, 22 CP 213-478, will remain consistent, Your Honor, and ask for on the possession of a firearm, a $5,000 bond, the aggravated assault, $5,000, the armed robbery, $5,000, the criminal attempt to commit a felony, $2,500, Your Honor, and the false imprisonment, $2,500, Your Honor. Your Honor, since Mr. Thompson has been incarcerated for over 6 months, he did lose his job, and he will have to go back out and find suitable employment. But I do believe that his family will continue to help him in this case and help him pay for a reasonable bond. Thank you.
So he's going to live in Chicago.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. What says the state?
Yes, Your Honor. We're concerned, Your Honor. What we're concerned about is because of the victim, and since they're not a sympathetic victim, they are afraid to move forward. They are afraid to come forward. And we also had a testimony that one of the victims didn't even contact the police because of they are not the most sympathetic. I think this is very concerning because it was a regular, consistent, multiple times events that continue to occur, Your Honor. So the state is concerned not only in regards to protection of property, but also protection of individuals, Your Honor, of the public, Your Honor. And also with Mr. Thompson, we're concerned that he may not have any community ties. And what we're concerned about is we don't want this to start back up, Your Honor. I understand that in regards to the conditions, it will be no contact with one another. And also, I just want to make sure that was in there also, Your Honor, and also no contact with any of the victims and no contact on social media or, as the judge already said, dating sites, escort sites, or any other kind of social media using that to lure people in. Thank you. And we
It's kind of going to be, the conditions are going to be the same on all of you, on both of you. No drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons. Stay away from 396 Piedmont Avenue Northwest. Stay away from 144 Courier Street. So for the first two, and stay away from 595 Piedmont Avenue. No further contact with Kang, K-A-N-G, last name Y-U. You're going to have an ankle monitor paid for by the county with a 24-hour curfew. You can leave your house for court, lawyer, medical, or employment as long as you supply the name of your employer, proof of employment, and a schedule, and the exact location you're going to be working. As far as you, Mr. Davis, you're going to stay out of Fulton County. The only reason you're coming back to Fulton County is to court or to see your lawyer. Also, no social media, no dating apps, no putting ads in newspapers, no anything like that. Meet them the good old-fashioned way. All right. So on the first one, I'll do 5,000 false imprisonment, 10,000 on kidnapping. I think I did say no drugs, no alcohol, no weapons. Oh, also I had a no further contact with Andre Davis, which looks like it's maybe another co-defendant, and Tarko Jackson, which may be another co-defendant, and Durante Williams. So no further contact with those people. Let's see, Jackson on position 4, no drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons, stay away from 396 Piedmont Avenue. No further contact with, and all these also, no further contact with Mr. Thompson on all of your cases too, along with those other people on each case, Ms. Fisher, DeMonte Williams, Tarko Jackson, and Andre Davis. No further contact with Gurpai, last name Singh. 10 on armed robbery, 2 false imprisonment, 2 computer theft, 2 on invasion of privacy. And then on position 5, no drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons, no further contact with those same co-defendants, Deontay Wilson, Tarko Jackson, Andre Davis, and Raquez Thompson. Stay away from 396 Piedmont Avenue. And let's see, there's other 2 addresses, which were 595 Piedmont Avenue and 144 Courier Street. And you can have an ankle monitor paid for by the county with a 24-hour curfew, court, lawyer, medical, or employment, as long as you supply the name of your employer, proof of employment, and the schedule, and the exact location you'll be working. You have to do that to the ankle monitoring company and to your lawyer so they can turn it over to the state. And as for you, you're going to live in Clayton County, stay out of Fulton County unless you're here for court or to see your lawyer. Don't get gas, don't get Chick-fil-A, don't get a flat tire, put snacks in your car. So that way you don't have to stop for snacks, gas, or anything else in Fulton County. Fill up your car with snacks, go straight to the courthouse, get out and go back in. All right. See, I think I gave those, no, on this one, let's see. Stay away from 396 Piedmont Avenue, no further contact with Wells Thurman, Tarko Jackson, DeMonte Williams, Andre Davis. This is on the position 5, right, Miss Miller?
Yes, Judge, that's correct.
So, no further contact with ALIMMOMIN. Also, stay out of Fulton County. The only reason you come here is court and see your lawyer. Like I said, no gas, no snacks, no flat tire, no nothing. Fill them up at your house. 10, 10, 2, and 1. 10,000, 10,000, 2, and 1. That ain't going to be paid for by the county. But if you don't supply an address where you're going to be working and don't get a job and then stop the job. So once again, no social media, no dating sites, no Grindr, Bender, whatever they are, and no dating sites whatsoever, no social media. Best of luck to you, sir. And for Mr. Thompson, no drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons, no further contact with Justin Davis, Andre Davis, Tarko Jackson, and DeMonte Williams. And that'll be on all of your cases. You have an income monitor paid for by the county with a 24-hour curfew, court, lawyer, medical, and employment. As long as you supply the name of your employer, proof of employment, the schedule, and the exact location you're going to be working. You're going to be in Chicago. These ankle monitors work there. And the only reason you come back to Georgia is if you're coming back to go to court or see your lawyer. No further contact with, I forgot, I don't know if I put the first victim on the first one. It's Rahulsingla. So that's on the first one too for Mr. Davis. Rahulsingla, those 2 victims. And on the second one, no drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons, no further contact with Justin Davis, DeMonte Williams, Tarko Jackson, Andre Davis, Marcel Thomas, or Gurpaising. You can have an ankle monitor paid for by the county with a 24-hour curfew, court, lawyer, medical, employment, as long as you supply the name of your employer, proof of employment, schedule, and a location you're going to be working. Also, sir, stay out of Fulton County and stay out of Georgia unless you're here for court or to see your lawyer. Don't even get gas. You may have to get gas one time unless you fly in. You can come into the airport, then you just get a car. But don't stop for anything else. Court, see your lawyer. Go. 10,000, 3,000, 2,000, 2,000, and 10,000. Yep, stay out of Georgia. All right, now let's see, position 6. Stay away from 144 Courier Street. That's also 396 Piedmont Avenue and 595 Piedmont Avenue. Stay out of Fulton County unless you're here for court or to see your lawyer. Stay out of state of Georgia unless you're here for the court or to see your lawyer. Stay no further contact with Alim, ALIMMOMIN. No further contact with Justin Davis, DeMonte Wilson, Tarko Jackson, Andre Davis, Marcel Thomas, Like I said, no drugs, no alcohol or weapon. That ain't going to be paid for by the county. 24-hour curfew, court, lawyer, medical, employment. As long as you supply the name of your employer, proof of employment schedule, and the exact location you're going to be working. You have to supply that on a weekly or daily basis whenever you get your schedule. 10,000, 10,000, 5,000, 2,000, 2,000, 10, 10, 5, 2, and 2. Best of luck to you, sir. Thank you both.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I just have one clarification question on 009. Counts 2 and counts 3 had a bond of how much?
5 and 10.
And on 246, the bond was how much?
246. It was 10, 3, 2, 2, and 10.
And I have for 478, 10, 10, 2, and 1.
10, 10, 5, 2, and 2.
Okay, so 10, 10, 5, 2, and 2.
Yes, ma'am. You get yours, Mr. Crumley?
Your Honor, if I can confirm, on position 2, I have 10, 3, and 2. Is that correct?
You got 5, 2, and 2
Oh, even better.
on position 2.
All right, let's see here. Position 3, I have 10, 3, 2, 2, and 10.
Uh-huh.
Position 6, 10, 10, 5, 2, and 2.
10, 10, 5, 2, and 2. Uh-huh.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Best of
And Your
luck to
Honor,
you.
Your Honor, as it pertains to my client, is he permitted to leave the state if he gains employment out of the state?
Who's that? The one that lives in College Park?
Yes, Judge.
What says the state? May have to get it through the state.
Your Honor, we would want the person to stay here, Your Honor. We want them to be able to face for the charges, Your Honor. What the concern is with the severity of the charges, with what's going on and what's facing the court, I would object to that, Your Honor.
Well, we do want him out of Fulton County, Judge, so out of the
He's not
state.
staying out of the state, Your Honor.
They live in Clayton County.
Right, my concern, Your Honor, is just to make sure that, he can get employment, and if he can't get employment here because of the severity of the charges, if he can leave the state because of employment purposes.
Well, if he can get an employment in another state, he should be able to get, it's just a charge. He hasn't been convicted. Feel free to send up something if he does, and we'll address it then.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay, I absolutely don't mind. I know he needs to work. But no social media, no dating sites, no, none of that. Best of luck to you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Judge. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys.
Enjoy your
Be
evening.
excused, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Crumley. Thank you, Mr. McCauley. Anything else?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor. Permission to leave, Your Honor.
Absolutely.
That'll be all for me, Judge.
Permission to depart on behalf of Mr. Justin Davis.
Yes, ma'am. Miss Miller, you're just gonna put him in the queue?
Yes, Judge.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank
Have a
you.
good afternoon.
You too.